Back to the Krishna book. We're in
Jai.
chapter 3. Last time we read about Krishna taking the hand of Rukmini and taking her onto the chariot. So now it's chapter 53. Krishna defeats all the princes and takes Rukmini home to Dwarka. And I will share the screen, and then Nirhari, Babatrini, if you'd like to start, then Nanda Patni, and I will read after all of you read.
Okay.
Can you see the screen okay?
Not yet. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Is that okay? Is the font good enough for everyone?
Oh, okay.
Is the font all right?
Yes, everything's fine.
Good. Okay, go for it.
All the princes led by Jarasandha became very angry at Krishna's kidnapping Rukmini. Struck by the beauty of Rukmini, they had fallen from the backs of their horses and elephants. But now they began to stand up and properly arm themselves.
Wow.
That would be a great sight to see.
Yes.
In other words, Rukmini's beauty was almost like a weapon.
Yeah.
Knock your socks off.
Yeah.
What's that? What's that, Nanda Patni?
She knocked their socks off.
Yeah, more than their socks, everything.
Yeah.
She knocked them off their elephants and horses.
Wow.
Chariots. Picking up their bows and arrows, they began to chase Krishna on their chariots, horses, and elephants. To check their progress, the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty turned and faced them.
Also, Krishna was a soldier.
Balaram came.
No, Balaram,
Oh, did you miss?
I missed
Oh,
it.
okay. Thus, terrible fighting between the two belligerent groups began. The princes opposing Krishna were led by Jarasandha, and they were all very expert in fighting. They began to shoot their arrows at the soldiers of the Yadu, just as a cloud splashes the face of a mountain with torrents of rain.
Wow.
Gathered on the face of a mountain, a cloud does not move very much, and therefore the force of rain is much more severe on a mountain than it is anywhere else. The opposing princes were determined to defeat Krishna and recapture Rukmini from his custody, and they fought with him as severely as possible. Rukmini, seated by the side of Krishna, saw arrows raining from the opposing party onto the faces of the soldiers of Yadu. In a fearful attitude, she began to look on the face of Krishna, expressing her gratefulness that he had taken such a great risk for her sake only. Her eyes moving, she appeared to be very sorry, and Krishna could immediately understand her mind. He encouraged her with these words, "My dear Rukmini, don't worry. Please rest assured that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty will kill all the opposing soldiers without delay."
Any comment on this before we continue on? Any thought from anyone?
It's what?
Is her mother?
Oh,
beauty.
it reminded us of Harisari's first wife.
Her mother.
She was her mother. She was from Australia, and her mother was so beautiful that whenever she would leave the house, all the men in the community would line the street and watch her.
Well, they,
as she, or they would actually fall off their horses and things like that.
Really?
Yeah, trying to see her.
Wow.
That was Australia.
No comment.
No comment.
I was just thinking, one thought that comes to me on this is it just shows, it just shows how powerful of an opulence a woman's beauty is. And then in Prabhupada's purport, I think in the first canto, he says, therefore, women must be like protected because their beauty is such a force, it can completely defeat the men.
Yeah, Chanakya Pandit said that that's one of the enemies of a man, will be a wife that is too beautiful.
Ah,
History has definitely shown that
Yes,
over and over. Yeah.
right.
and Prabhupada wanted to marry a more beautiful woman, and Prabhupada said no. Prabhupada's father Gomar Ande said that's not a good idea because if you ever
Yeah.
want to take sannyasa one day, she'll be too beautiful.
Yeah,
I think those were those were all the battles in Greek tragedy were over
Yeah.
Helen of Troy.
Helen of
Yeah.
Really?
Troy.
Really?
Yeah. You
She
know,
was
men fought and killed each other over her.
Wow.
Yeah, it's known as the face that launched 100 ships,
Yeah.
1,000 ships or something.
And then famously Cleopatra was the same, wasn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Of course, the other generals and kings followed because the renowned wealth of Troy. So there's all wars like that.
What's your point
No,
about Troy? Excuse me.
Oh,
no, that greed and lust.
that
that-
everyone fighting wasn't fighting because of the beauty of these mundane heroines like Cleopatra and Helen of Troy. They were joining their leaders for wealth and fame. They may not have even seen the beautiful woman. So it follows that greed. What did you say?
It was an excuse, of course.
Yeah.
The offense was.
She was the spark, though.
Right,
Yes.
right.
And we also have the pastime of Mohini Murti, where Krishna
Yes,
is so gorgeous, even Lord Shiva lost it.
right.
Yeah, they all lose their head. Rahu.
Right.
Yeah, literally.
Literally.
And
Brahma, Lord Brahma, and his daughter.
His daughter.
Yeah.
and
Tut.
yes, go on.
No, I said tut tut.
Tut, tut.
A little of the Queen's English there. She's got her hands full these days.
Yes.
All right.
So I can't see. Oh, there we go. Okay, we have the text back. You ended on when? Like several days?
No.
Oh. The opposite princes, opposing princes were determined to defeat Krishna and recapture Rukmini from his custody. And they fought with him as severely as possible. Rukmini, seated by the side of Krishna, saw arrows raining from the opposing party onto the faces of the soldiers of Yadu. In a fearful attitude, she began to look on the face of Krishna, expressing her gratefulness that he had taken such a great risk for her sake only. Her eyes moving, she appeared to be very sorry, and Krishna could immediately understand her mind. He encouraged her by these words, "My dear Rukmini, don't worry, please. Rest assured that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty will kill all the opposing soldiers without delay." I thought
that's what I read. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're doing a recap.
Okay, so we're
So this is where I left off there.
okay. As Krishna was speaking, okay, it was your turn.
No.
As Krishna was speaking with Rukmini, the commanders of the Yadu dynasty's soldiers, headed by Lord Balaram, who is also known as Shankarshan, as well as Gadadhar, not tolerating the defiant attitude of opposing soldiers, began to strike their horses, elephants, and chariots with arrows. As the fighting progressed, the princes and soldiers of the enemy camp began to fall from their horses, elephants, and chariots. Within a very short time, it was seen that millions of severed heads decorated with helmets and earrings had fallen on the battlefield. The soldiers' hands were cut out along with their bows and arrows and clubs. One head was piled upon another, and one horse was piled upon another. All the infantry soldiers, as well as their camels, elephants, and asses, fell down with severed head. That's funny, asses.
I didn't know they had asses.
Maybe for weapon carrying or something. Okay, I end there, or should I?
You accidentally recapped. Can you read a second paragraph?
Yeah, read that little short paragraph.
Okay.
When the enemy headed by Jarasandha found that they were gradually being defeated by the soldiers of Krishna, they thought it unwise to risk losing in the battle for the sake of Shishupal. Shishupal himself should have fought to rescue Rukmini from the hands of Krishna, but when the soldiers saw that Shishupal was not competent enough to fight with Krishna, they decided not to lose their strength unnecessarily. Therefore, they ceased fighting and dispersed.
I'd forgotten that. Whoa, that the soldiers just quit because Shishupal was unqualified.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that.
Unqualified leader.
Yeah. He wasn't even fighting for her.
This is like a second Kurukshetra, isn't it? Millions of severed.
Well, it's like that battle with the
Um,
lakes, the rivers of blood, only this one doesn't have rivers of blood. It has piles of corpses cut up,
Heads piled up.
heads and
All neat.
I remember.
Oh, Shikarani, Haribol.
Very well, Sikrani. I'm glad you could make it. I remember as a young bhakta when I was reading the Krishna book, it was just blowing my mind when you'd read about all these corpses and rivers of blood, and this is God, you know. And but at the same time, 1 minute he's hanging out with his coward friends and the gopis playing in the fields with the cows, and the next minute he's creating mountains of heads, rivers of blood.
Oh, well, that's Mathura dish.
but I'm privy to some of the Gurukula exchanges because my children went to Gurukula. So
Right.
I'll have posts that their generations have that their generation that they're talking about. Well, we survived Krishna book, and some of us of saying, well, I'm not going to read Krishna book to my grandchildren or something like that.
Why?
They're saying they survived Krishna book.
But
Krishna
some
book
parents, were they reluctant to read the Krishna book because of all the...
No, they weren't. But some of the the grown-up children that grew up in the movement, think that Krishna book is out there and that they survived it.
Oh.
Because of all the violence that went on.
Yes, and the everything, the violence, the rasa dance, everything. They just think
it's out there because it's another universe.
Yes. Well, none of my children think that. They all like Krishna's pastimes, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes.
Vanchakalpa Cha to you, Danny Prabhu. Danny Prabhu he is our benefactor here. These books going on for the last year because of Danny Prabhu's donation.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
He donated $200 in order to pay for all of these Zooms for us.
So nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. And Danny works as a nurse. He has, what do you have, like 50 or 100 other nurses under your care, Danny? Is that right?
No, clients. I work about 130 clients in the community that I help take care of, senior clients. Yeah.
Oh,
wow, that's a lot of people to take care of.
Where are you? What?
I'm in Markham, not too far from Gora, about an hour and a half or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Toronto, Canada.
And
yes.
I've been asking Danny for a long time. We miss you. Please join us. But he's so busy because he's got 3 daughters on top of that to care for and his wife.
Wow.
Talk about responsibility. So you finally escaped. You were able to make it for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be more. My schedule's better, so I'm gonna be joining more often now.
Super. Great.
Wonderful.
Are you a little familiar with the story of Princess Rukmini and Krishna kidnapping her, Danny? Do you know that story?
Yeah, I read it before, a little while ago, but not recently. But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so it's Nanda Patni reading next, then Sikarani, and then yourself, Danny. We're reading 2 paragraphs each. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So Nanda Patni, please. And we're stopping. If anyone wants to make a comment, I'm not in a rush to read the whole chapter. Just, we can just, as we go, if anyone is inspired, we can ask. I'm taking notes myself. If I have a question, I'll ask it. So where are we now? Oh, about the severed heads, all the Indian.
Yeah, we ended with severed heads.
That
was Polo started.
Yeah, that was the major discussion. Okay. When the enemy, headed by Jarasandha, found that they were gradually being defeated by the soldiers of Krishna.
Oh, we already read that.
We
Oh,
did?
we already read that. So
Oh, okay. So
some princes.
as a matter of etiquette,
Wait a
appeared
minute.
before Shishupal. And they saw that Shishupal was very much discouraged, like one who has lost his wife. His face appeared to be dried up, and he'd lost all his energy, and all the luster of his body had disappeared. They began to address Shishupal thus: "My dear Shishupal, don't be discouraged in this way. You belong to a royal order and are the chief amongst the fighters. There's no question of distress or happiness for a person like you, because neither of these conditions is everlasting. Take courage, mes enfants. Don't be disappointed by this temporary reverse. After all, we're not the final actor. As puppets dance in the hands of a magician, we're all dancing by the will of the Supreme, and according to his grace, only we suffer distress or enjoy happiness, which therefore balance equally in all circumstances."
Excuse me for interrupting you, Nanda Patni. I find this fascinating because it's staying, the demoniac, if you can say, princes who are on the side of Shishupal, they're acknowledging by the will of the Supreme everything is going on, but it seems that they don't realize that Krishna is the Supreme. So they're
That
like
was the problem.
Brahman realized, or what comment would anyone
No,
like?
because see, even Lord Brahma didn't think that Krishna was the supreme, because his contact with the Lord is the four-armed Lord, the supreme Lord that mounted on Garuda and like that. So when they see this little boy, on the grounds of Braj, without shoes, playing with his friends.
We were just listening to Madhukar reading in Srimad Bhagavatam about Lord Brahma approaching God to save the earth and the demigods because Indra had been cursed. And he's already spoken the Brahma Samhita, but he's never seen Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And actually, at the end of this, he sees Vishnu on Garuda with the four arms. So, and of course, Shishupal is one of either Jai or Vijay. So,
He didn't see Krishna in his threefold bending form with his flute at the time of.
It said he never actually had darshan of him, but he must have.
He heard. Yeah.
And then after full realization, he speaks, "I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, and the threefold bending form."
So isn't Brahma Bimohan or he's
So we're not
confused.
sure, but this is what it sounds like to us, because it says in the Bhagavatam that state that he actually has never seen Krishna, but he's seen Vishnu. I mean, it doesn't say he's never seen Krishna, but he's seen Vishnu. They say he's never seen Krishna, and then they go on to talk about him seeing Vishnu.
Yeah.
So,
Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that Lord Chaitanya says, don't take Krishna out of Vrindavan. This Yadu Kumar, which means the prince of the Yadu dynasty, is different. At the same time, is the Supreme Lord. So those are things that we need to realize only by the, like it says, through devotional service. Chanting.
So is it understand that when they speak of the Supreme, are they speaking of Brahman, or what are they speaking of?
No, maybe even Vishnu. But see, the big demons, they know that the Supreme is God, and they want to fight it. In Mandodari, when he sends Ravan to battle, he said, "Yeah, I know, but I prefer to be killed by him than if I had to be killed or fight him."
well, so I don't know in this
declare
particular case. I don't know who they think is the Supreme God. And we just heard Srila Prabhupada in a speaking that Hiranyakashipu was an atheist.
Right.
and he hated God.
Yeah.
But Kamsa believed
He was an atheist,
in God. He
atheist.
wasn't an atheist. It doesn't. It's and Ravana was a great worshiper of Shiva. So it's.
But then you
I
think
guess
about
it's not black and white what the demons believe.
well, the major ones are really similar too. It's
Yeah.
not that confused.
But when you
not
say
The major ones
confused.
know that it's and they want to be their enemies. So they're
Oh
not
yeah, no.
atheists.
Some of
In
them
the correct
want.
sense of the word, an atheist is the whole God doesn't exist. But in this case, if Prabhupada calls them atheists, they're like declare enemies of God.
Oh
know who
yeah,
he
that's
is.
so okay. So I don't understand correctly.
Because
So when Prabhupada
see, I'm
says
not understanding
atheist,
either, because you're saying, Baba Trini, that Kamsa believed in God. Well, who was that God for Kamsa? I'm not clear.
yeah, we don't. Well, I don't know. Nari's saying that some of them know that Krishna is the supreme, and they want to kill him. They're his sworn enemy.
Kumar, Mathuradish, Dwarkadish.
Yeah, and they want to kill him. They're his sworn
Even
enemy.
though they know he's the supreme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada calls that being an atheist.
Okay.
So he's taking that from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which he listens to much more than I do, because he listens to it when he has to drive somewhere.
Whose turn is it now?
I think I'm reading a second paragraph here.
Oh, you only had one?
Mm-hmm. So
Oh,
the whole catastrophe of the defeat was due to the envious nature of Rukmini's elder brother Rukmi. Having seen his sister forcibly taken away by Krishna after he had planned to marry her with Shishupal, Rukmi was frustrated. So he and Shishupal, his friend and intended brother-in-law, returned to their respective homes. Rukmi, very much agitated, was determined to personally teach Krishna a lesson. He called for his own soldiers, a military phalanx consisting of several thousand elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry, and equipped with this military strength, he began to follow Krishna to Dwarka. In order to show his prestige, Rukmi began to promise before all the returning kings, "You could not help Shishupal marry my sister, Rukmini, but I cannot allow Rukmini to be taken away by Krishna. I shall teach him a lesson, and now I'm going there." He presented himself as a big commander and vowed before all princes present, "Unless I kill Krishna in the fight and bring back my sister from his clutches, I shall no more return to my capital city, Kundina. I make this vow before you all, and you'll see that I shall fulfill it." After thus vibrating all these boasting words, Rukmi immediately got on his chariot and told his chariot driver to pursue Krishna. He said, "I want to fight with him immediately. This cowherd boy has become very proud because of his tricky way of fighting." Fighting with the Kshatriyas, but today I shall teach him a good lesson, because he has the impudency to kidnap my sister. I, with my sharpened arrows, shall teach him a very good lesson indeed. Thus, this unintelligent man, Rukmi, ignorant of the extent of the strength and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, began to voice impudent threats.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was just imagining Srila Prabhupada with his dictaphone, if you listen to the Srila Prabhupada with the dictaphone, click, 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 click,
Yes.
and how he's speaking these words at 1 o'clock in the morning for us.
Wow. What a nice
amazing.
thought. What a nice meditation.
Yeah,
To
I saw
remember, actually got to see Prabhupada doing that in Mayapur.
Wow.
They let him guard Srila Prabhupada's room.
Yeah, Keshala Prabhu always, so nice. I had some friends, so he got me that to guard Prabhupada's room, that service.
At what time did you see Prabhupada?
His light went off at 9 p.m. and came back on at 11.
He just slept for 2 hours.
Yes.
You think you're up to
Then-
that point yet, Danny? Prabhu? Sleep 2 hours and then get up?
In the medical career, maybe.
Prabhupada said once that the Goswamis, they only sleep 2 hours a night, but I cannot imitate. I sleep
No.
3.
No.
So maybe he went back to sleep.
No,
Or
in the
something.
afternoon he will take it on.
Oh, I
Right.
see.
There's also, according to Ayurveda or even, Western naturopathy, 1 hour of sleep before midnight is supposed to be worth 2 hours of sleep after midnight.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Something to do with REMs, rapid eye movement. Danny, would you
Yeah.
like to say something about that? You're the nurse.
Yeah, no, you're right, Gord. They said before 12 o'clock, as you said, it's a deeper sleep. You know?
Oh.
Oh, yes.
We'll have to start
And Ayurveda states
Hello.
Prasangi!
Jai Ratangi, Hare Krishna, and welcome back. Ayurveda states that if you go to sleep after 10 o'clock, you shorten your lifespan. I'm really good at speaking talking the talk, but I'm not walking the talk. But
Well, maybe it's good to shorten your lifespan.
Also, good also some regulated life is good prevention.
What? But I guess it depends on the level of advancement you have.
Right.
But okay, so Nanapatni is finished now. Danny, your turn, and then after you, it's Chikarani, and then Masangi's turn if she's not driving.
Sure.
I am driving. I'm just
okay.
going to drive from the beach.
Okay, you can listen.
Okay.
All right. In great stupidity, he stood before Krishna, telling him repeatedly, "Stop for a minute and fight with me." After saying this, he drew his bow and directly shot 3 forceful arrows against Krishna's body. Then he condemned Krishna as the most abominable descendant of the Yadu dynasty and asked him to stand before him for a minute so that he could teach him a lesson.
This lesson, gosh.
You are carrying away my sister, just like a cow stealing clarified butter.
Crow.
A crow stealing clarified butter meant for use in a sacrifice. You are simply proud of your military strength, but you cannot fight according to regulative principles. You have stolen my sister. Now I shall relieve you of your false prestige. You can keep my sister under your possession only as long as I do not pinion you to the ground for good with my arrows. Lord Krishna, after hearing all these crazy words from Rukmini, immediately shot an arrow and severed the strings of Rukmini's bow, making him unable to use another arrow. Rukmini immediately took another bow and shot another 5 arrows at Krishna. Being attacked for the second time by Rukmini, Krishna again severed his bowstring.
Wow.
Rukmini took a third bow, and Krishna again cut off its string. This time, in order to teach Rukmini a lesson, Krishna personally shot 6 arrows at him, and then he shot another 8 arrows. Thus, 4 horses were killed by 4 arrows. The chariot driver was killed by another arrow, and the upper portion of Rukmini's chariot, including the flag, was chopped off the remaining 3 arrows.
Wow. I'd just like to make a comment what a fantastic shot Krishna is, that he was so expert, he could actually shoot the string on the
Yeah.
bow. I mean, that's a good shot.
Yeah.
Supreme good.
And I was just thinking how, our understanding of God is so colorful. I mean, very often God is sometimes portrayed, I suppose, in the Bible, as, how do they refer to him? As a jealous God? He's a jealous God.
Is an all cantankerous man. I'm sorry.
Or I don't know how they perceive God in the Quran.
Yeah, he sits on the throne.
Oh,
But
no,
I
on
don't
the
know.
Quran, he's great.
He's not violent.
He's great. No, they don't say he's not violent. They
Allah
just say
Akbar.
he's great. Yes.
Allah Akbar.
That is
But they don't explain how Akbar is Allah.
Right. I just read something to that effect, that they say God is great. I think it was a lecture, Prabhupada. They say God is great, but they don't say how great. They don't know anything about him. They have no information.
So guna, qualities, name, qualities.
And then in the Bible, they just say God's the oldest. They say some things. He's the oldest of the all. He's, I don't know it's been a long time, but they do.
Not understanding the Lord's absolute nature, they might think, oh, wow, look how violent this Krishna is. He's even shooting the horses. He's shooting everything in sight.
The charioteers.
Well, there's a story in the Bible where God tells, I think it's Saul, to go to this village and to kill every single living being, all the animals. I think he even has them kill all the plants, all the trees, all the babies, everything in the village.
But because the absolute nature of the Lord is not explained, then people just think, wow, these religious people, they're just like when I took my 4-season permaculture design course and they were glorifying Mother Gaia. I said, well, what about the God aspect, the male aspect? Oh, don't bring him up. That all these wars and bloodshed and burning women at the stake, that's all because of a male God. But they don't understand. Nanda Patni, do you have a comment to make on this?
Not particularly. I mean, I think, there's plenty of evidence in other scriptural texts of copious amounts of violence. Yeah, but I mean, I guess the thing that distinguishes, our particular emphasis is that Prabhupada goes to such lengths enormous lengths to describe the transcendental nature of Krishna and the spiritual world. 30 volumes worth. So, plus the CC. So I think that's where people begin to become truly enthralled in Krishna consciousness, because it just is this unfolding layers of understanding in such detail and such depth. You can't get away from that if you read the other scriptures and then you read ours.
Yes, and without that, like Prabhupada said, philosophy without religion is speculation, and religion without philosophy is sentimentality. So we see that people who are sentimental, if they hear that God is slicing off heads, shooting horses, everything in sight, and without philosophy, then wow, what a violent God. I'm not into this. Peace and love, like Ringo says.
Or on the other side, that he's a debauchee who runs off with everyone's wives. So I say, Prabhupada goes to endless, lengths to try and put forward a completely detailed understanding of what a transcendental, what and who the transcendental being is. And that if you look at the other scriptures, they can't actually really tell you what. They can't, they kind of reach for what, but they never get to who.
Mm-hmm.
Also, now these religions, Abrahamic religions, they come to the extreme of that you can't pronounce the name of God, you can't say the name of God. Maybe it's a little misinterpretation of in our school, it says we're not really pronouncing, can't really pronounce the name of God. We utter noise until the day that we, Shuddha Nam or the purest Nam is pronounced. God has such powerful result.
Danny or Sikarani, before we go on further, do you have any question or comment before we move on?
I was just gonna say in God in general, like growing up, from this traditional Hindu background, for me it was a confusion, like who's the supreme God? Because you go to different homes, you see Lord Shiva, you see Lord Ganesh, Lord Indra. So that was one of the things that and I even did a survey with some of my clients because a lot of them are from Indian backgrounds, and I asked them, like, who is the main god for you, the supreme? And a lot of them, you'll be surprised, it's demigods. They still don't know it's Lord Krishna, right? So that's one thing I think Prabhupada, for me, really clarified and really imprinted in my head that Krishna is the supreme.
Your home originally is Guyana, correct?
That's right, yeah.
When did you come to Canada?
I was 8 years old when I came.
So before you were 8 years old, did you visit different Hindu communities' homes and you saw these demigods?
Yeah, so we had the temples right within the community. And then within the homes, there's a lot of, different, many demigods. Yeah, exactly. And, going back, a lot of Indians, they came in the early 1900s from India. They came as indentured workers, and even you have Indians in Africa, in the West Indies, different parts, right? And so they kind of brought whatever culture and food they had, but as over time, some of it was lost, and they had to make do with whatever. So that's why you see that it can be different, right?
And Prabhupada came to restore their culture.
That's why one of his first books was Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right.
And imagine the contribution of writing a Bhagavad Gita as it is immeasurable.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like Nandapatni was saying, the transcendental nature of God. When Krishna performs violence, when he kills demons, all the people involved receive the highest benefit because God is good. Everything coming from him is for the benefit of all the living entities. So if anyone's fortunate enough to see, anyway, I think that's a good point, what Nandapatni's saying. And one thing I did with my children's songs when I was getting a lot of flack from the New Agers is I started making sure all my songs had that the person was liberated when Krishna killed them, or like with Rukmini, I said that Krishna's God, so what can those others do if he wants to rescue someone? And that if you desire, Krishna will rescue you also.
Nice. Maybe you could sing that again tonight at the end, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And see how Rukmini is insulting, Shishupal is insulting Krishna. They were accusing him of being a debauchee, and the Patni was saying, and also not being a true kshatriya.
A bad fighter, tricky.
Yeah.
And a cowherd boy.
He kills his own family members.
Sikarani, please continue for us.
Yeah.
Where did we leave off? Okay, having run out of arrows.
Hello.
We're waiting for you.
We can hear you.
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Having run out of arrows, that one?
Yeah.
Having run out of arrows, Rukmini took the assistance of swords, shields, tridents, lances, and similar other weapons used for fighting hand to hand, but Krishna immediately severed them all in the same way. Being repeatedly baffled in his attempts, Rukmini simply took his sword and ran very swiftly towards Krishna. Just as a fly proceeds towards a fire, as soon as Rukmini reached Krishna, Krishna cut his weapon to pieces. This time Krishna took out his sharp sword and was about to kill him immediately. But Rukmini's sister Rukmini, understanding that this time Krishna would not excuse her brother, fell down at the lotus feet of Krishna and in a very grievous tone, trembling with great fear, began to plead with her husband. Rukmini first addressed Krishna as Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara means one who is possessed of an inconceivable opulence and energy. Krishna possesses inconceivable opulence and energy, whereas Rukmini's brother had only limited military potential. Krishna is immeasurable, whereas her brother was measured in every step of his life. Therefore, Rukmini was not even comparable to an insignificant insect before the unlimited power of Krishna. She also addressed Krishna as the god of the gods. There are many powerful demigods such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, and Chandra. Krishna is the lord of all these gods, whereas Rukmini's brother was not only an ordinary human being, but was in fact the lowest of all because he had no understanding of Krishna. In other words, a human being who has no connection of the actual position of Krishna is the lowest of in human society. Rukmini also addressed Krishna as Jagatpati, the master of the whole cosmic manifestation. In comparison, her brother was only an ordinary prince.
Rukmini was praying to Krishna for the life of her brother. In this way, Rukmini compared the position of Rukmi to that of Krishna and very feelingly pleaded with her husband. It's the first time that's being referred to Krishna as her husband now. So this is called Swakiya Ras, correct? There's a Parakiya Ras as a paramour, but a proper husband is Swakiya Ras, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. So Rukmini compared the position of Rukmi to that of Krishna and very feelingly pleaded with her husband not to kill her brother just before the auspicious time of her being united with Krishna, but to excuse him. In other words, she displayed her real position as a woman. She was happy to get Krishna as her husband just at the moment when her marriage to another was to be performed, but she did not want to be at the loss of her elder brother, who after all loved his young sister and wanted to hand her over to one who was, according to his own calculations, a better man. While Rukmini was praying to Krishna for the life of her brother, her whole body trembled, and because of her anxiety, her face appeared to be dried up. Her throat became choked, and due to her trembling, the ornaments on her body loosened and fell scattered on the ground. Lord Krishna immediately became compassionate and agreed not to kill the foolish Rukmini, but at the same time, he wanted to give him some light punishment. So he tied him up with a piece of cloth and snipped at his mustache, beard, and hair, keeping some spots here and there. While Krishna was dealing with Rukmini in this way, the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty, commanded by Balaram himself, broke the whole strength of Rukmini's army, just as an elephant in a tank discards the feeble stem of a lotus flower. In other words, as an elephant breaks the whole construction of a lotus flower while bathing in a reservoir of water, so the military strength of the Yadus broke up Rukmini's forces. Oh, wait a minute, I'm just backtracking here. Now all of a sudden, Krishna has an army. He has the Yadu army with him. Is that correct?
We read Balaram heard Krishna went alone, so he came with his army.
Right, thank you.
With
So
yeah.
he's following.
So
Thank you.
they were, and that's who was fighting Jarasandha.
Right.
And then Jarasandha's army, they quit because Shishupal wasn't trying to take Rukmini back. He wasn't fighting. And then Rukmini went to try to save the day.
Thank you, Babatrini. Yet when the commanders of the Yadu dynasty came back to see Krishna, they were all surprised to see the condition of Rukmini. So in other words, Krishna humiliated him, chopping off little bits of his hair and mustache. Lord Balaram became especially compassionate for his sister-in-law, who was newly married to his brother. In order to please Rukmini, Balaram personally untied Rukmini, and in order to further please her, Balaram, as the elder brother of Krishna, spoke some words of chastisement. Krishna, your action is not at all satisfactory, he said. This is an abomination very much contrary to our family tradition. To cut someone's hair and shave his mustache and beard is almost comparable to killing him. Whatever Rukmini might have done, what might have been, he is now our brother-in-law, a relative of our family, and you should not have put him in such a condition. That's really cool to see that Balaram is taking this role here of chastising Krishna, because you don't see that very often, do you?
God chastising himself.
Why don't we read one paragraph each, since we're getting towards the end here? What are you saying? Chastising himself?
Yeah, Balaram and
Balaram
Krishna.
is the supreme personality of God.
Right. So you're saying that's equivalent to chastising himself?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like, in the rasa dance, he's enjoying himself in a way.
Uh-huh. Okay, why don't we read one paragraph each so everyone gets a chance to read? Hari and Babatrini.
Okay. Where after this?
While Krishna.
Oh, while Krishna is dealing with Rukmini in this way.
No, excuse me, I read that already. Excuse
Okay.
me, I'm sorry.
So after this.
Excuse me. After this, in order to pacify her, Lord Balaram said to Rukmini, "You should not be sorry because your brother has been made very odd looking. Everyone suffers or enjoys the results of his own actions." Lord Balaram wanted to impress upon Rukmini that she should not have been sorry for the consequences suffered by her brother due to his actions. There was no need of being too affectionate towards such a brother. Lord Balaram again turned toward Krishna and said, "My dear Krishna, a relative, even though he commits such a blunder and deserves to be killed, should be excused. For when such a relative is conscious of his own fault, that consciousness itself is like death. Therefore," that's like Bhagavad Gita, "therefore there is no need in killing him." He again turned toward Rukmini and informed her that the current duty of the Kshatriya in human society is so fixed that according to the principles of fighting, one's own brother may become an enemy on the opposite side. A Kshatriya does not hesitate to kill his own brother. In other words, Lord Balaram wanted to instruct Rukmini that Rukmini and Krishna were right in not showing mercy to each other in fighting, despite the family consideration that they happened to be brothers-in-law. Sri Balaram continued to inform Rukmini that Kshatriyas are typical emblems of the materialistic way of life. They become puffed up whenever there is a question of material acquisition. Therefore, when there is a fight between two belligerent Kshatriyas on account of kingdom, land, wealth, women, prestige, or power, they try to put one another into the most abominable condition. Balaram instructed Rukmini that her affection toward her brother Rukmini, who had created enmity with so many persons, was a perverse consideration befitting an ordinary materialistic person. Her brother's character was not at all adorable, considering his treatment toward other friends. And yet Rukmini, as an ordinary woman, was so affectionate toward him. He was not fit to be her brother, and still Rukmini was lenient toward him.
I'd just like to pause for a second. Nanda Patni, or, since you just read this, Bavatrini, does anyone have any, because I'm looking at Lord Balaram here, and I'm seeing him as being like an expert conflict resolutionist, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the same way he's
That's
kind of
diplomacy right there at work. Also, just notice, I was not the etiquette. How there are strict rules. So we call it rules of engagement. Also, think about family life.
I'm just thinking how this shows the difference between Radha and the gopis' love for Krishna. They would never tell Krishna not to.
It's a different relationship.
Yeah.
Marriage is contract of two families. In the Vedic society, is a contract. And so you have, like you were saying, we have Parakiya Ras and Swakiya Ras.
But it's not just because it's Swakiya, it's just that she's not 100% sold out to Krishna. Anything, It's like they're not one pointed. And sometimes it's described that their love is divided because they have 10 children. The queens have 10 children each. So their love is divided amongst the children and Krishna.
True. I have a
None-
point. I have
Okay.
a point that,
Yes,
but remember
yes,
how
go ahead.
angry, remember how angry the gopis became when Krishna killed the bull?
Yes.
I mean, I know it was just Leela, but they
Yeah.
chastised him. They
Yeah.
wanted it, they wouldn't have anything to do with him
Right.
because he was contaminated because he killed the bull.
Mhm.
So that's
That's
interesting.
true. I was thinking of that also, but
Also, that Gurudev would say, I mean, in between, lovers is different. The relationship between lovers is very different. There's no contract. You see?
It's so
Whereas-
interesting, huh?
Yeah, that's the the contrast there between this Yadu Kumar and Krishna as a prince, rather than the Krishna from Braj, who surrenders to Radha actually.
Nanda Patni, do you have a comment to make on this paragraph? How Balaram is-
Not
yeah.
particularly. I think you're all kind of pinning it down. That there's a kind of a a broader social context, if you will, of different relations here, familial relationships, and also Prabhupada's touching on the roles of Kshatriyas in general. So although everyone's alluding to the difference with Krishna and the gopis, this is very specific, isn't it, to the Dwaraka Leelas?
yes.
Yeah. Interesting, it says Kshatriyas are the typical emblems of the materialistic way of life.
No,
They
pretty
become
hard.
puffed out. Yeah, they are. So they had to pay for their, like everybody
Everybody pays.
pays for their
Pays
actions.
the piper.
Yes, there's conquest, there's hubris, there's, arguably, all the kind of valor and prestige and all that kind of thing. Whereas, the Raj Leela is full of gentleness and total soft-heartedness, etc., very different qualities.
What does hubris mean?
Stunningly proud.
Yes.
Ah,
As in, pride comes before the fall, that kind of proud.
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Return to read.
How to read?
Yeah.
I really like this mood of Lord Balaram here. It's standing out for me how he's
Yes.
telling Krishna you should excuse a relative, and at the same time he's telling Rukmini almost like the opposite, that sometimes
Yes.
a family member may deserve to be killed.
Yeah. And then Kshatriyas, he says there, Kshatriyas, they don't go, even if it's a brother, because of who they are, they won't hesitate to if the brother, another Kshatriya happens to be their brother and they're opposite. And they feel.
But he speaks, like you're saying, he speaks in contradictions. He's telling to Rukmini, he's saying, oh, he should be forgiving because he's a family member. He's saying to Krishna, and then he's saying to Rukmini, oh, he should kill him because he's a Kshatriya.
Yeah, that's what I'm noticing.
So you're saying he's a resolver, but he sounds like a troublemaker to me.
Well, it's diplomatic. But see, also, is the thing is that now, imagine if Krishna killed her brother, what would happen to that relationship? So, very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Balaram is so expert. He's just
Yeah.
time, place, and
God.
circumstance, right?
Yes.
It's God. Supreme intelligence.
But I'm just saying our leaders, or, we're supposed to be leaders also, to have that wherewithal to know, okay, with this kind of devotee, I need to deal with them in this way. With that devotee, I need to deal with them in, it's not going to be the same.
We should just have
That's
Balaram come
empowerment.
take over.
One time, a devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, there's no temple commander in this temple. And Prabhupada said, that's okay. Lord Jagannath, he's the temple commander. Whose turn is that? Your turn, Hari Prabhu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read a paragraph because we're coming towards the end.
Okay. So I begin after
so did you
this.
finish, Baba Trini? He was not fit to be your brother. Is that where you read, Baba Trini? And still Rukmini was lenient toward him. Is that what you read?
Yes, that was what I read.
Okay.
So besides.
Besides that, Balaram continued, the consideration that a person is neutral or is one's friend or enemy is generally made by persons who are in the bodily concept of life. Such foolish persons become bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. The spirit soul is of the same pure quality in any embodiment of matter, but those who are not sufficiently intelligent see only the bodily differentiations of animals and men, literates and illiterates, rich and poor, and so on, which cover the pure spirit soul. Such differentiation, observed purely on the basis of the body, is exactly like differentiation between fires in terms of different types of fuel they consume. Whatever the size or shape of the fuel, there is no such variety of size and shape of the fire which comes out. Similarly, in the sky, there are no differences in size or shape. Unquote.
Did everyone catch this analogy? I'm trying to get it to sink in.
Yeah,
I've never heard that analogy before. Yeah.
Different types of fuel.
Don't affect the fire.
Mhm.
And so similarly,
In the sky, there are no differences in size or shape. The sky's not, the sky's the sky, I guess. You don't say
Right.
the sky is-
Yes.
yeah.
no, but the application of that is that what the people, we should not see friends and enemies. We should just see everyone as part of Krishna. Is that the
Yeah.
lesson?
Ramani Gavihastani is that.
Pandita Samadarshana.
Yeah.
That everybody has Krishna in their heart. Actually, God, the Supreme Lord.
You can find a Bhagavad Gita verse in each paragraph.
But we
Yeah.
cannot act. We cannot imitate. I mean, that would be a stage where somebody's, Brahma Bhuta Prasanna,
Yes.
it's realized.
Nanda Patni, would you like to continue?
So in this way, Balaram appeased them by his moral and ethical instruction. He stated further, this body is part of the material manifestation. The living entity or spirit soul, being in contact with matter, is transmigrating due to illusory enjoyment from one body to another, and that is known as material existence. This contact of the living entity with the material manifestation has neither integration nor disintegration. My dear chaste sister-in-law, the spirit soul is, of course, the cause of this material body. And as such, as much as the sun is the cause of sunlight, eyesight, and forms of material manifestation. The example of the sunshine and the material manifestation is very appropriate in the matter of understanding the living entity's contact with this material world. In the morning, there's the sunrise, and the heat and the light expand gradually throughout the whole day. The sun is the cause of all material production and shapes and forms, and it's due to the sun that integration and disintegration of the material elements take place. But as soon as the sun is set, the whole manifestation is no longer connected to the sun, which has passed from one place to another. When the sun passes from the eastern to western hemisphere, the result of interaction due to the sunshine in the eastern hemisphere remains, but the sunshine itself is visible again in the western hemisphere. Similarly, the living entity accepts or produces different bodies and different bodily relationships in a particular circumstance, but as soon as he gives up the present body and accepts another, he has nothing to do with the former body. Similarly, the living entity has nothing to do with the next body which he accepts. He is always free from the contact of this bodily contamination. Therefore, the conclusion is that the appearance and disappearance of the body have nothing to do with the living entity, as much as the waxing and waning of the moon have nothing to do with the moon. When there is waxing of the moon, we falsely think that the moon is developing. And when there is waning of the moon, we think that the moon is decreasing. Factually, the moon, as it is always the same. It has nothing to do with such visible waxing and waning activities.
Any comment on that before we move on?
I just always marvel at how Prabhupada, goes into endless dissections to try and get the point across. And he has like thousands of them. It's just amazing.
But he's saying to Rukmini, the goddess of fortune, who is made up of Satchidananda Vigraha. She's not conditioned. She doesn't have a material body. He's talking about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's giving these examples like they're materialistic people. It's just, right. He's telling her she's materialistic. She's too attached to her body, and he's chastising Krishna, saying that he's behaving in a not good manner, and he's preaching that they're covered over and that they're not their bodies.
But see, that's not our Leela.
I know. I just was surprised just to hear that.
They're playing roles.
I know that I've read it many times, and I never noticed before the dichotomy that he's preaching to them that they're in Maya when they're not.
Danny, the next paragraph is really short, so why don't you read the two little ones?
Okay, sure. Consciousness of material existence can be compared to sleeping and dreaming. When a man sleeps, he dreams of many non-factual happenings. And as a result of dreaming, he becomes subjected to different kinds of distress and happiness. Similarly, when a person is in the dreaming condition of material consciousness, he suffers the effects of accepting a body and giving it up again in material existence. Opposite to this material consciousness is Krishna consciousness. In other words, when a man is elevated to the platform of Krishna consciousness, he becomes free from his false conception of life. In this way, Sri Balaram instructed them in spiritual knowledge. He addressed his sister-in-law thus: "Sweet, smiling Rukmini, do not be aggravated by false motives caused by ignorance. Due to false notions, only one becomes unhappy. But this unhappiness is immediately removed by discussing the philosophy of astral life. Be happy on that platform only." After hearing such enlightening instruction from Sri Balaram, Rukmini immediately became pacified and happy and adjusted her mental condition, which was very much afflicted by seeing the degraded position of her brother, Rukmi. As far as Rukmi was concerned, neither was his promise fulfilled nor his mission successful. He had come from home with his soldiers and with his military phalanx to defeat Krishna and release his sister. But on the contrary, he lost all his soldiers and military strength. He was personally much degraded, and in that condition, he was very sorry. But by the grace of the Lord, he could continue his life to the fixed destination. Because he was a Kshatriya, he could remember his promise that he could not return to his capital city, Kundina, without killing Krishna and releasing his sister, which he had failed to do. Therefore, he decided in anger not to return to his capital city, and he constructed a small cottage in the village known as Bojakata. and began to reside there for the rest of his life.
It's interesting because it shows that even though he was demoniac, that even amongst demoniac princes, they had some kind of sense of nobility, right? Because he had been defeated, he agreed not to return to his kingdom.
Yeah, promises. It's
Mhm.
like Bhishma.
I wonder where Kundina is today. I don't know.
Is Sikarani here? Is, she have a map?
You know, do you know
Yeah, I'm
Sikarani?
here. Yes. Yeah.
We
Where
need
is Kundina?
geography lesson.
Do you know where Kundina is?
No, I don't know.
Could it change was the kingdom?
Or Pojakata?
Let me check.
Your point, Nirhari, is that even amongst demons, there was a sense of honor.
Kundina is an
Yeah, if there were warriors like that. Whereas in this age, we see how the value of word is nothing now. The ether has become contaminated with lies.
Right.
Kundina is same place, Vidarbha, where we were talking about that Vidarbha that day. It's in Maharashtra, where Parush Prabhu belongs to that place.
Which place?
Vidarbha in Maharashtra.
Uh-huh.
Narush Prabhu belongs to that place.
Oh, Nahush. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. He was telling that day. Yeah, same.
Interesting.
Who's from Vidarbha? One of the
Nahush.
No, in Krishna Lila.
Yeah, in Krishna Lila that day we read about Vidarbha.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
think Rukmini herself was from Vidarbha.
That's right. Rukmini was from Vidarbha. So
Kundina is also in Vidarbha. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
Thank you, Sikarani. Your turn to read, Sikarani.
That makes sense.
Reading.
After
defeating all the opposing elements and forcibly carrying away Rukmini, Krishna brought her to his capital city, Dwarka, and then married her according to the Vedic ritualistic principle. After this marriage, Krishna became the king of the Yadus at Dwarka. On the occasion of his marriage with Rukmini, all the inhabitants were happy, and in every house there were great ceremonies. The inhabitants of Dwarka city became so pleased that they dressed themselves with the nicest possible ornaments and garments. And they went to present gifts according to their means to the newly married couple, Krishna and Rukmini. All the houses of Yadupuri, Dwarka were decorated with flags, festoons, and flowers. Each and every house had an extra gate specially prepared for this occasion, and on both sides of the gate there were big water jugs filled with water. The whole city was flavored by the burning of high quality incense, and at night there was illumination by thousands of lamps decorating each and every building.
Wow.
Deepavali.
The entire city appeared jubilant on the occasion of Lord Krishna's marriage with Rukmini. Everywhere in the city, there was profuse decorations of banana trees and betel nut trees. These two trees are considered very auspicious in happy ceremonies. At the same time, there was an assembly of many elephants who carried the respective kings of different friendly kingdoms. It is the habit of the elephant that whenever he sees some small plants and trees, out of his sportive, frivolous nature, he uproots the trees and throws them hither and thither.
Sounds like cows.
The elephants assembled on this occasion also scattered the banana and betel nut trees, but in spite of such intoxicated action, the whole city with the trees thrown here and there looked very nice. Rasangi, are you able to read now, or are you still driving? Rasangi? Are you still with us? No? Okay, so you can finish Nirhari and Balatrina. It's a paragraph each for you.
The friendly kings of the Kurus and the Pandavas were represented by Dhritarashtra, the 5 Pandu brothers, King Drupada, King Satardhana, as well as Rukmini's father, Bhishmaka. Because of Krishna's kidnapping Rukmini, there was initially some misunderstanding between the two families. But Bhishmaka, king of Vidarbha, being approached by Sri Balaram and persuaded by many saintly persons, was induced to participate in the marriage ceremony of Krishna and Rukmini. Although the incidents of Krishna kidnapping was not a very happy occurrence in the kingdom of Vidarbha, kidnapping was not an unusual affair among the Kshatriyas. Kidnapping was in fact current in almost all marriages. Anyway, King Bhishmaka was from the very beginning inclined to hand over his beautiful daughter to Krishna. In one way or another, his purpose had been served, and so he was pleased to join the marriage ceremony, even though his eldest son was degraded in the fight. It is mentioned in the Padma Purana that Maharaj Nanda and the cowherd boys of Vrindavan joined the marriage ceremony. Wow. Kings from the kingdoms of Kuru, Srinjaya, Kekaya, Vidarbha, and Kunti came to Dwarka on this occasion with all their royal paraphernalia.
Wow, the city must have expanded. The story of Rukmini's being kidnapped by Krishna was poeticized, and professional readers recited it everywhere. Like the bears, all the assembled kings, and especially their daughters, were struck with wonder and became very pleased upon hearing the chivalrous activities of Krishna. In this way, all visitors as well as the inhabitants of Dwarka city became joyful seeing Krishna and Rukmini together. In other words, the Supreme Lord, the maintainer of everyone, and the goddess of fortune were united, and all the people felt extremely jubilant. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 53rd chapter of Krishna. Krishna defeats all the princes and takes Rukmini home to Dwarka.
Wow. Nanda Patni, do you have any comment to make on this section that was just read? Any thought, reflection, something stand out? Nanda Patni?
Nanda Patni left.
Oh.
Exactly 9 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
She put a message that she was leaving.
She's very paka when it comes to time.
Yeah.
What about you, Danny or Sikarani? Any thoughts on what we just finished reading? One question I have is, it said, practically speaking, kidnapping is not an unusual affair amongst the Kshatriyas. Like it's common. I guess it's not so common these days, but is that what we sometimes would call eloping? Eloping with someone? I remember hearing that term as a boy, when you elope.
No, it was definitely more. It was kidnapping.
But she wrote the letter.
She wrote in the case of Subhadra and Arjuna, Subhadra drove the chariot, and in the case of Samba's marriage, he kidnapped.
He was kidnapped.
Samba kidnapped.
Who was the one that came?
He was marrying, I think, Duryodhana's daughter, or he wanted to, and he had to kidnap her, and a lot of people were killed. And Prabhupada said, but that is the way of Kshatriya marriages. There's always violence and blood or something.
The marriage wouldn't be complete without it.
Yes.
But that's that mood. So there's so many mentalities, and that's why there are, those natural divisions in society.
So what is the Dwarka city that Krishna is taking Rukmini to? Is it on that island out there?
Yeah.
Square mile?
It's in the ocean. It's
the Arabian Sea. Because there's what's called Beta Dwarka. Is that on the land, Beta Dwarka, or is that the ocean, Beta Dwarka?
I'm not sure. I never heard of that Beta Dwarka, but I know Beta Dwarka was, Dwarka was in the ocean.
Do you have something to say, Sikarini?
Sikirani, did you ever visit Dwarka?
No, not till now.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Danny? Did you go yet?
No, I've been to a few other places like Ayodhya, Vrindavan,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Bangalore, Varanasi, a few other. But
Yeah.
one question I had, just reading the story with Rukmini, she didn't know, like in terms of just reading from the pastime, her natural love was just developed by hearing about Krishna, right?
Uh-huh.
She didn't actually know of him. And so my question is, in terms of this love, ultimately, that's the whole goal, is to develop that love for Krishna, which is within our heart, right? But how can we know that we are developing that? Like, what are some of the signs, feelings that, as we make progress? And as I said, I use this analogy, like if a boat is leaving the dock, right? You can look back at the dock and see
the wake.
Yeah, how far you are. But when you're in the middle, you're not sure, are you making progress? Or so my question basically is this love in the heart. Is there any way of kind of knowing, because you're kind of people materially say, I love you, like you love me, but really it's not, that eternal.
It's like, I love the way you gratify my senses.
Yeah.
But there's definitely there are two things here. A very good question, I think. But there's two things. One is that Krishna is better to hear about than we realize him by hearing. So from hearing from our Guru Vargas, our Guru Parampara, we truly actually get Krishna into our hearts. It says those who read Bhagavatam, immediately they capture Krishna in their heart and they hear. So Lord Chaitanya quotes this from Bhagavatam itself, that what need is there of any other scripture. And the other is that if you study also other Vedic literature there's one by Thakur, Jivadharma, where it explains as you'll be getting bodily symptoms. Even in Chaitanya Charitamrita it shows. It's called sadvikas. There's eight symptoms, the hair standing on end, tears coming, and like that. So, and then one of them is humbleness. Humbleness is very close to prem, very, very close to prem. So there'll be those changes in the character of a person.
Thank you.
So it's like it's a real phenomenon. It's like, we call gravity in English, and but it's not Newton that discovered it. There, it's a phenomenon. So God is real. So there is definitely we'll feel once we're the iron will start taking the quality of fire, which is
right. It's the process, right?
By sadhu sangha. So sadhu sangha, in the midst the sadhus, that's how we advance, and the symptoms will be manifesting. Maybe slower, but for sure they'll be there. But yeah, we always want to see, as if the eyes were so perfect. And we can't even see our eyelashes or see past 25 miles. We have the ocean here. We can see as far as we can see, and they said it's only 25 miles. So, but hearing is the most powerful sense that we have. Mm-hmm. And that's what it says that we should understand or know about God by hearing. So Rukmini heard his qualities. And also we have to know, like I said, finally, the goddess of fortune now is together with the Supreme Lord as a righteous position. So it's like that in Nara Lila, it's their human life, but at the same time now it's the goddess of fortune finally meeting the Lord in this pastime. But they're meant to be together. They're always together.
Thank you, Narhari.
Sure, you're welcome. I hope it answered.
We also have the example given by Srila Rupa Goswami, where he describes the various levels. Adao, meaning in the beginning, Shraddha, faith, Tata Sadhu Sangha, because of that faith, someone sees the Harinam party on the street. Oh, what did Prabhupada defines faith as appreciation. You have some appreciation for the devotees. Oh, that's interesting. They look happy. Adao Shada Tata Sadhu Sangha. Then it makes you want to, oh, who are these people anyway? Oh, they're handing out books. Let me look at one of these books. Tata Sadhu Sangha. Chabhajana Kriya. Then one will become interested in the Kriya, the practice of bhajan, the worship of the Lord. Adao Shada Tata Sadhu Sangha Chabhajana Kriya. Toto Narta Nivriti Syat. Then by associating with the devotees, we lose our association for tamasic and rajasic activities. We don't want to go to the bars. We don't want to eat meat, fish, eggs, chicken. These, the birds of a feather flock together. We take on the qualities of the saintly people. You want to say a little more on that before you start your song on Rukmini?
You remember we were just reading about Bhishma and how we were reading with you about Bhishma's passage of when he's in a bed of arrows.
Yes.
And he said, because of my eating at the house of the Kurus, I got contaminated. My heart
really
was contaminated.
Really, he said like that.
And so, because at the beginning of that, he's giving all moral instructions. So I was listening to Srimad Bhagavatam, I was listening to Chamarani, that Rukmini, not Rukmini, Draupadi was smiling, but in Vedic civilization, they cover their face, their mouth. And Bhishma realizes, what are you smiling? He said, where were you? Where were your moral instructions when I was being disrobed in assembly, when you were present in the assembly, although these nobles supposed to be noble men? So he said, well, now, he said, I had contaminated blood because the food turns into blood, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And by all that blood now, due to the arrows piercing his body, it all had drained. And Bhishma had the boon to leave whenever he wanted to, leave his body whenever he wanted to. He said, now this contamination is gone, so all the blood had drained out of his body. But Prabhupada said there's two lessons. That one is that be careful who we share food with, we associate with. If they're intensely materialistic, we'll be contaminated.
Mm-hmm. Sikarani, do you have any other comments, Sikarani? On what we read? Yes.
I think what I was thinking about the thing which you mentioned, like even though the king was kind of demonic, he still had that kind of self-respect that he had promised, and if he goes back, it will be like kind of breaking that promise situation. So I think that is very common, and I have read many stories, like mythological stories regarding that even if the king, either this you are telling demonic, even if the kings who are already demons, like who are actually considered demons in all those stories like Ravan or Kans, they also used to follow some principles. So it was always there, like even in during war, if it is evening, they will stop doing the war. They won't. So now I will tell you, I don't know if you guys know, but in the first India-China war, China attacked Indian soldiers when they were sleeping in the night. And that's why we were almost defeated, because everybody was sleeping and they attacked in the night. So now in the world, there is no principle, no rules, nothing. They don't even respect, even in defense, they are always trying to not follow the protocols which they make, right? But in old age, it was still better. If they have decided, they will not kind of break it. So sometimes Krishna is also criticized about Mahabharata, because people say that he actually kind of did a lot of tricks, to kill a lot of people who could have not been killed other way. So although we know why he did that, but a lot of people like neophyte devotees, or if they are being brainwashed by somebody, they will always tell these things to them, that Krishna did a kind of trick and like disjustice to Karna, or even about the Aswathama incidents, to kill Dronacharya. Also for Bhishma, like he did almost tricks with everybody to kill them. So some people try to portray it negatively also. Just wanted to put it. Although if they understand the whole scripture, and if they come in association with devotees and read more about it, they would be definitely kind of more aware why and how things happened. I
The
know
point
is
being that we should not imitate Krishna's activities, but we must follow his instruction.
yeah.
Lord Shiva can drink an ocean of poison, but we should not think we can take a bag of pot and smoke up some ganja.
Yeah.
Because many times you see Shaivites, they think that part of being a Shaivite is to smoke pot.
Mostly, Prabhupada was directing that towards the hippies and impersonalists. The impersonalists they would use, that's why I say they're like so demoniac, because the demons usually quote them. They want the faults in others, that they're theirs, but then won't admit to theirs, and they quote always, some moral rules, by which. But the Lord is transcendental.
Like Jarasandha telling
no...
Krishna he kills his own family members when he was killing, and Kamsa was killing his family members, all his nephews.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say something about what Rishangi was saying, how the gopis, they chastising Krishna for killing the bull. But it's not really parallel to Rukmini sending a letter, come rescue me, whereas them praying to Katyayani to have Krishna for their husband, and Krishna coming and promising he will dance with them, he will accept them, and then he calls them with the flute. And when they go there, he he tells them they should go home, etc. At that point, if Krishna was going to kill their relatives, I think that's more of an analogy to that pastime. The other one is their daily activities, and they have these little pastimes where they chastise Krishna for killing a bull, and then he chastises them for chastising him. So
Yeah.
But the other thing is the demons usually think they're noble and that they're right.
Uh-huh. We have Anne here with us. I'm not sure which Anne she is because we can't see her, but thank you for coming, Anne.
Yeah, and demons are very interested in ancestry, and I'm very proud of their lineage and like that. So they always will bring up, he's the son, as a foster, is a child of, is a coward boy, like that.
Uh-huh.
And dances with other men's wives. That's typical of the demon.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the title of this?
Rukmini and Dwarkadish is the title of the song.
Okay.
Or the kidnapping of Rukmini.
Okay.
Her lips are soft pink, and her waist and her eyes are bright green. She is just meant to be Lord Krishna's queen. She walks with grace, and her waist is quite thin. Krishna thinks of her, she thinks of him. Her brother is a fool, her brother is quite cruel. He wants her to marry Shishupal. Princess Rukmini, what can you do? Write to Lord Krishna, for your rescue. Please come here and take hold of my hand before I am touched by this sinful man. Her brother is a fool, her brother is quite cruel. He wants her to marry Shishupal. Coming from the temple before the wedding day, Rukmini saw Krishna on the way. For the other princess, he had no care. He took her just like a lion takes his share. Her brother is a fool, her brother is quite cruel. He wants her to marry Shishupal. But Krishna is God, so what can they do if he decides to give rescue? Rukmini Dwarkadish, now they do reign. Everyone knows their holy name. Her brother is a fool, her brother is quite cruel. He wants her to marry Shishupal. Others may be fools, others may be cruel, but if you desire, Krishna will save you.
Jai.
Okay.
I haven't played that one in a long time. Sorry.
Just the other day.
Yeah, but it was.
I've heard the
Yes.
story that Srila Prabhupada never actually called the Los Angeles deities Rukmini Dwarkadish. They were originally called Radha Krishna. But
Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I
So
heard.
my song was about the deities. See, I did the drawing of the deities in
Beautiful.
Los Angeles.
Wow, you're a good
And I
artist.
named it Rukmini Dwarkadish when actually I think the kidnapping of Rukmini would be a better title. But later on, I found out that I was there too. They were actually Radha Madhava, and Jayatirtha wanted it to be called New Dwarka, and he wanted the deities to be Rukmini Dwarkadish. And Srila Prabhupada said no. And then Prabhupada left. And then when he came back, Jayatirtha had established that they were Rukmini Dwarkadish. And I was told Srila Prabhupada just said, what can I do?
Uh-huh. So actually,
I-
Prabhupada named them Radha Madhava?
That's what I was told. But I don't have the actual,
Yeah, because see the color of Krishna too.
he's
He's
white.
in a three-bending form too.
He's playing a flute.
He's playing a flute. He has a staff of the cower man, the cower boy, and whereas if it was Dwarkadish, should be arrows, like the weapons and like that.
And
would be there.
when Srila Prabhupada
Very good. And
established,
he will stand straight.
Uh-huh.
Kshatriya stand straight. Like Ramachandra, when he stands straight. Maryada, the codes of morality.
and then we
and
call
etiquette.
the little deities who were the original ones there, Rukmini Dwarkanath. But the first time I went to the Los Angeles temple in 1971, I didn't even know there were deities. I'd been to, no, the doors were open, but I didn't even know which way you were supposed to face. I mean, the place was just full of people. It was Los Angeles. Maybe there were 200 people in the temple room. And I didn't know what was going on really. I'd been to the San Francisco temple on Frederick Street in 69, and I didn't stay for the whole feast. And they had everyone sitting facing the devotees, and you couldn't see the altar, which was to your right. And then when I went to Maui in 71, January, they didn't have any deities. And then I went to Oahu, Honolulu the next month, and they still didn't have deities. And then we were sent back to our house, and we opened up a temple there briefly, and then we had to leave. So when I got to Los Angeles, I went to the temple, and because I was wearing a sari and tilak and had beads, no one talked to me, but my purpose of going there was to try to move in. But I remember in the lecture, the speaker said that religion without philosophy is sentimentalism, and philosophy without religion, and philosophy without religion is fanaticism, mental speculation.
It would create quite a disruption in Los Angeles if they tried to return the names of the deities to the names that Srila Prabhupada intended, Radha Madhava or Radha Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know who to verify it with.
I'll run it by Siddhanta. I'll send a message to him right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But he might not. He might not be.
He didn't join that early.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he
no,
might
but
not
he's
be
got
privy.
stories. No, he has hundreds of stories though.
Oh, yes.
He's
Yeah.
interviewed 450 devotees. So
yeah. Yeah, an installation like that. But I know we got this story from letters, the 400 letters that were written between Srila Prabhupada and Srila Narayan Maharaj.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got that too. It's not the mood that our line is in.
No.
Although they're beautiful and merciful, we're in a Vrindavan mood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's our line.
But if you remember in LA, Prabhupada said, some of you're worshiping Lakshmi Narayan, the way behaving is like you behaving towards the Loras. And even to this day, we had such dear friends, and they say, I prefer the opulence, the Aishwarya mood, than this Vrindavan, Leela.
But you raised a good point, Hari Prabhu, because the Krishna playing the flute is the Braj Krishna. He's not. Right. I don't know. I mean, I guess of course Krishna can play his flute in Dwarka if he wants, but
it's not happening. It's like Yogamaya will never allow the gopis want to go, but they can't go. They won't leave Vrindavan. Neither Krishna. Is it not even a foot out of Vrindavan? So then we
those are the specialities of Krishna that make him different than he's the original, and he plays the flute. He has the peacock feather. There's what else is it? Do you remember Shanti?
Three bending form.
Yeah.
Tribanga.
Yeah. There's like 64 qualities, and only the original Krishna and Vrindavan has the four. So yeah, he's got the flute. I'm not a good preacher. I can't remember.
Next Monday we'll be reading about Krishna's marriage to Rukmini and how Pradyumna, who's actually Cupid, right, is born from their union, so to speak. I forget that pastime, but it'll be great to revisit it as well.
That's next. Oh, it's just so amazing that was like Nanda Patni was saying how Prabhupada goes into detail, but actually that was Balaram speaking, telling him that you're not your body and you're materialistic.
And also, I mean, we have Hiranyakashipu. If you start in Bhagavatam, he's preaching to his family about you're not your body.
That's true.
Yeah. Remember? We were reading
at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Friday, we'll be revisiting the Nectar of Instruction.
Okay.
And
Ooh.
we did we do chapter 2 commentary by Bhakti Vinod and Bhakti Siddhanta last time? Do you remember?
Did we miss the
We missed
a class.
one
We were
class.
trying to participate, but we had
we were
to
driving.
go in and
Can you remind me, please? Do you remember the last Friday? Were you there?
Rashangi maybe or
Sikarani.
Or Sikarani? I don't.
On
I think
Friday?
I should
Yes.
write
yeah,
it
last
down.
Friday. Do you remember? Were you there?
Yeah,
Did-
I was there. Yeah.
Okay.
So where did we leave off?
We talked about the faults, right? Atyahara prayasascha prajopani
Yeah, but we left in the beginning of.
Yeah. So okay, cool. So now we'll be going back to Srila Prabhupada's purport. Where utsahan nishtaya darya tat tat karma pravartana jana sangat. What is it? Jana sangat jaloliam cha sadbir bhaktir prasidyati. The 6 principles by which one can make advancement in devotional service, beginning with utsahan, enthusiasm.
Yes.
But it's funny in going back to right now, and all this challenging asuras and like that, they see Krishna as a human rather than the Supreme Lord. So there's some element of envy there, even in ourselves, even among, if we envy, like Prabhupada, when she came to see Prabhupada one time, Prabhupada said, don't envy the spiritual master. Remember?
Oh yeah.
So there is parallels there. That,
how is she envying the spiritual master?
No, not her.
In Hawaii, I told you
she
before,
went in
but
to
I'll
see
briefly. I know in Hawaii, Siddha Srupananda had just left ISKCON, and so all the big shots were telling us. Prabhupada said that Siddha Srupananda left ISKCON with his group because he's envious of Srila Prabhupada. He's envious of the guru. So our god sister Nandalal asked at the end of class, how do you become free from envy? And he said, he didn't say envy. He just said that they left because they're envious. That's what he said. I'm sorry.
Really?
So she asked Prabhupada, it had nothing to do with the class, but she wanted to find out,
because of
well, we all wanted to hear something bad actually about Siddha Srupananda because he was leaving. So she goes, how do you become free from envy? And he goes, don't envy the spiritual master. And so she goes, oh, he must have missed to me. I have permission to tell this. She goes, oh, he must have thought I was talking about myself, but I'm not envious. It's, I was talking about Siddha Srupananda and his group. So you have an appointment to go have a private darshan with Srila Prabhupada. Do you mind if I come in and when you're done talking, I'll ask him about this question?
Okay.
So that was the prelude. So anyway, when I went in to see Prabhupada, after we spoke, she said, can you explain further how to become free from envy? And he said, just like Prahlad Maharaj, he was never envious. He was never afraid. When something bad came, he thought, oh, here's my Lord, here's Krishna. And when something good came, he thought, oh, here's my Lord, here's Krishna. So he was never envious. He was never afraid.
So what I was on, so there's parallels. The spiritual master is like Krishna. We said that in the prayers in the morning. Shashad Haritana Samasta Sastri. There is no difference. And then at the same time, it's inconceivably one and different because he's servitor God. And in God, those opposite conclusions or those opposite actions are in coexistence, meaning that God is Sarvagyata, knower of omniscient, and at the same time he's Mugdata, ignorant. And so that's what many times he asks, but Prabhupada didn't know what was going on in Gurukula or like that, or is Krishna? Why is Krishna with Jarasandha, it seems like he's afraid, but he's not afraid. Krishna is not afraid. Dwarka is no fear, is the Supreme Lord. So, but Krishna runs away from the stick of Mother Jasoda in fear, is true feelings. So those two are there. They're there for the spiritual master. But in the case of the Asuras, they're envious. We are envious, that we think, why is Krishna doing that? Why can I do it? Actually, we're thinking, if he does it, then
That's
if God
kind of
does that way, what can we have? But there's only one supreme enjoyer. There's only one male, isn't there? And we as we read in Vedic literature.
I'd just like to address what Prabhupada told Baba Trini, just so I can get a deeper understanding. You asked Prabhupada to clarify more about what was enviousness, right?
Oh, Nandalal asked.
Nandalal, okay. And Prabhupada was saying, just like Prahlad Maharaj, when threats were coming to him, he saw it as Krishna. And when good prosperity or blessings came, he saw it as Krishna.
Well, he just was very simple. He said, when something bad came, he thought, oh, here's my Krishna. Lord Krishna. When something good came, he thought, oh, here's my Lord, here's Krishna. He saw no different.
I'm trying to understand that if something bad comes, how is that an expression how is it an expression of enviousness of Krishna if when something happens that's quote unquote
because
bad?
you're never envious. You just think, oh, here's my Lord, and you're happy.
And so thinking, oh, he's always okay. He's great. I'm not. Why? Why am I? Why is he doing this to me? But he's not.
So not okay. That's the point I'm trying to get to. So if we're wondering why is Krishna treating me this way, that's actually a sign of enviousness of Krishna.
Well, it is if you think,
if you think you don't deserve it,
that he is your enemy,
that he's doing something to you. But also in the Krishna book, Prabhupada's equating
we always have to think that he's our friend
with fear. And in Krishna book, Vasudev tells Kamsa that envy is the cause of all fear.
So, for me personally, what I feel is like whenever something bad happens to me, and so how I can relate is when I start giving importance to anything else in my life more than Krishna, and that thing doesn't become successful or something bad happens. So I take it as, of course, Krishna is envy because I'm not giving that much importance to Krishna and I'm giving more importance to this thing which I should not do. I should always keep Krishna in center. So
yes.
I can relate in that sense. And I also feel even if anything bad happens, I feel Krishna has something good in reserve for me. With my reference, because I am a materialistic body, I'm thinking this is bad happening, but only God knows if it is actually bad or good, what is happening.
Right. That's right.
It's from our point, it's from where we stand,
and
our conception like that.
And recently,
so what you're saying is actually in a verse in the Tinanu Kampam, he said that the devotee thinks this two ways, and Krishna loves the devotee for that he continues to be steadily doing his her bhajan. Yeah, so that the devotee will think, well, this is a result of my bad actions from past life, so I'll stand it, but I'll never deviate. I'll never stop having faith that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and he's my friend. Always, he's always my friend.
And just recently, I read in a purport, I think. I don't remember where I read it. That's my problem. But Krishna will do things that appear unfair or suffering or make your life miserable. But even if you don't remember why you're suffering, what you did to get this reaction, you are being relieved of the ties to that, your attachment. Krishna is breaking your attachment so that you don't have to keep coming back, taking birth again. So I used to think, well, if we can't remember why, we're being punished, but we don't know why, so how do we learn? But Krishna gives us certain situations and certain so-called bad things that happen to us so that we never are attached to that again. We never have to take birth again. We never have to be in illusion. So he's doing it to break our attachment.
Okay, so it's going on 10 o'clock here.
My goodness.
But Danny, thank you
Gaurav
so
Prabhu.
much for coming, Danny, after almost the...
Oh, Danny, we're so happy to meet you. Thank you.
After almost a year or something. But
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like having 150 patients that you're regularly having to lift them up out of the bed and straining your back. And,
wow.
Yeah. Especially during these COVID times, crazy times.
Thank you. Then.
Thank you, Danny.
And please come on Friday if you can. If you can't, I understand. Otherwise, we'll be back eating Krishna book on Monday again. And thank you for coming, Sikarani Vasangi. It's always great to have you, whether we can see you or not. Just to have you here.
Haribol, Haribol.
Haribol.
And I have a few comments about the reading with Guru Das Prabhu, but there was no time to share them, so I don't know when to do that with Sangeet.
Maybe next Wednesday we were gonna meet again.
Same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Thank you. I mean, me too. I had some, things that I really got inspired by you, Rasangi, and your compassionate nature and Guru Das. Really is very wonderful to see, and that's really Vaishnava.
Maybe Danny and Sikarani can come.
Yeah, actually, I'm calling on Sikarani right now.
Okay.
There was a lot of difficulties today that they had to push through. It was
right. Sikarani was helping.
It was kind of like a technical difficulty nightmare, and I was just like, I know you're probably working at that time, Sikarani. I don't know, but it's 1:30 our time when they do it next Wednesday. If you could please be on hand, you're the troubleshooter.
The problem is I actually have lot of meetings whole day, so I'm not sure. But
next Wednesday meetings, okay.
It'll be recorded,
he needs
that's too bad because you could ask questions and
Anyway, we understand.
Yeah. And Danny, if you can come, that would be so nice. Do you know who Guru Das is? Danny, do you know who Guru Das is?
I don't know. I don't know if his mic is on.
Oh, he said something in the chat.
Yeah. Anyway, Guru Das is one of the three married couples that went from San Francisco, got trained up in Kirtan by Srila Prabhupada in Montreal with his good wife, Yamuna Devi, who's like a legendary god sister in our ISKCON.
He was the first photographer of Prabhupada.
He's the first photographer. He has about 5,000 photos. And some of them are like used like this. I love the one that we saw today too, Prabhupada with the finger like this. We use for Back to Godhead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are very iconic photos of Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, yes.
And he's giving the stories behind the photos.
It's fabulous.
So,
but when he came,
you'll be busy at work, but it's at 1:30 in the afternoon. Otherwise, I can send you the link if you like.
Yeah, it was delightful to have him here. I'm sorry, Rasangi, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, that whole period in San Francisco during the Summer of Love was so important and historical. And the Krishnas were awarded, they were seen as helpers, that they would bring people to the temple from coming down from bad trips to help them re-enter life. They would give them breakfast and help them get grounded so they wouldn't be endangering themselves.
I was at the Festival Express in Winnipeg, Manitoba, my hometown. I was around 15 years old at the Winnipeg Blue Bomber Stadium. I guess, what year would have that been? Around 1971 or 2, whatever. And Janis Joplin, the band, Buffy Saint Marie, Joan Baez,
Oh,
Mountain,
yeah,
Leslie
so the-
Mount, Mississippi Queen. If you know what I mean, with like 1,000 amplifiers. Anyway, it was called the Festival Express, and they were in a train going up Grateful Dead. They were going across Canada, and I was an usher. I trying to, I was told to stop people from jumping over the fence to get into the concert for free, but I wasn't gonna do that. But anyway, I remember the Hare Krishna devotees set up a tent in the middle of the football field while everyone else was getting ripped on acid and smoking pot going out of their minds. The Hare Krishna devotees had set up a tent, and they were taking in people who were having bad LSD trips, and they were helping to calm them down. And I looked at the devotees and I just thought, wow, they're not even here for all these rock stars. They're just here to serve. That made a really big impression on me. I was 15 years old.
It's amazing, amazing times.
So, Rashanga, you didn't finish what you were saying.
I was just saying, the contribution was ginormous. We
Yeah.
don't know.
Such enormous.
Even like we discussed today, George Harrison and the Beatles, millions of people heard about, millions and millions of people heard about Krishna because of that. And
Yeah.
Prabhupada's loving relationship with him. You have to read the books of Shama Sundar, of Guru Das, to really understand the legacy. And Guru Das is a living legend. I hope he stays with us for a long time, because he's carrying a special seed, something special that not a lot of people have.
Right. Yeah, this compassionate nature, and
he's such a sweet,
amazing, very sweet friend. Very sweet friend.
And
the other book that is, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, the other book is Hare Krishna Explosion by Hare Griva, and with Govinda Dasi we were talking. I love that book. She said, "Oh, I want to write my book, Govinda Dasi. I want to write my book like Hare Griva." So having these books by these devotees I think it's very, very, very important.
Really important to understand. For me too, to understand how Prabhupada was, how affectionate, how personal. He bandaged Guru Das's foot. Come on.
Yes.
Who knows that? He bandaged his foot when he heard it.
This is the first time he taught us so many things. But
and Guru Das and Jamuna followed suit in Vrindavan when the second group came. Dinabandhu with his wife Akuti. The devotees were not being taken care of or treated well at all. And Jamuna and Guru Das fed them, got them better places to sleep, and took care of them. I mean,
for them.
They were just so loving and personal.
So as a natural sequence, like
so
you
that
were
was
saying.
like Prabhupada's legacy. They were
And so helping serving the Vaishnavas that now they have become older Vaishnavas. Everybody needs help, and so we should be there. That's the highest thing, to serve Vaishnavas, isn't it? It's higher than serving Krishna.
I coined the phrase, but it's not my own. No devotee left behind. I know that's
that's perfect.
And that's the Marines are like that. We're fighters.
And if we can do that, Krishna will be so pleased with us. He'll probably be so pleased.
Jai.
Well, I'm not trying to blow my own horn, Rasangi, but 11 years ago, when I started looking for all of Srila Prabhupada's disciples on Facebook, that was exactly my intention.
That's wonderful, Guru Gora.
No, I'm not trying to give me credit. I'm really not.
Oh,
but I'm saying,
we'll blow the horn for you. Yay, Gora!
That photo of
but my frustration was that I wanted to not have a marriage with Guru Prabhu, but somehow or other, like let him use our facility, please, Prabhu. I built as Prabhupada said, I built the framework. Now you fill it all in. So okay, I found 900 Prabhupada disciples. Guru Das, you want to take care of all these people. Well, here's 900 of them, but somehow or other, I don't know if he has an issue with Facebook or what it is, but he never connected there. And
He's not.
He's so busy, you know.
that's what I
not
think.
time, so-
I decided to blame myself, and I'm thinking, well, instead of expecting him to come in there and start advertising what he's doing, I probably should have done that.
He's not very technically savvy. I have a Facebook group that I started when he came to Hawaii, and it says Guru Das in Hawaii. It's like what, 10 years ago or 7 years ago?
Yeah.
And then the other one is Roger Siegel in Hawaii.
Right.
And they're still on Facebook, and
he's not interacting with
and
it.
they're not
no,
talking
he
about-
once in a while interacts with
yeah.
it, but
Okay.
I don't really pay attention to it. But that's his only Facebook.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've tagged him many times on Facebook. Hey, Prabhu, look at this photo. I got a great photo of George Harrison here. I'm gonna put it. Like, what I'll do is I'll take a photo of George Harrison and
I don't think he's on Facebook.
Okay.
I don't really think.
I'll
he-
take a photo of George Harrison and I'll find 10 different George Harrison groups, and I'll post it with some Krishna story. So I preach to people using.
Maybe
Yeah.
perhaps you can help him that way too. If you have entrance to those groups, and
Well,
then
I'm
you
no
know,
longer on
so
Facebook. I'm suspended.
All right, you're banned
He's like
forever, right?
we invited him to our store for for signing book signing, and
Yeah.
we made him a real nice table with a little lamp, and it was very intimate. And there was like 100 devotees and other friends of the devotees. So many
non-devotees.
came.
And people from the neighborhood. And the place was really small, and it was like it had a balcony, and there were people out on the sidewalk, all participating.
You know, who doesn't know the Beatles or George Harrison? Now he pulls out letters. He had all these letters that he brought with him. People are so fascinated. So
Today he made a comment. He said, "Oh yeah, and I got a picture of Paul McCartney in the recording studio, but you can only have so many photos." And I'm thinking, Paul McCartney in the recording studio recording Hare Krishna. Paul McCartney's got millions of fans all over the world. Definitely, people need to see that photo. So I'd like to get it from him.
But this movie, like I was telling you, this movie, Disney movie, is not very favorable to devotees in a way. And I think it's because of they ignores them. They really are. One part, yes. I mean, it's Shamasundar and Mukunda. They're at this it's a film studio that they borrowed to do this.
But they're just sitting there. They don't talk to him or anything.
And the devotees are just sitting there. So at one point, John looks at them and said, he said, they're George's friends. They look very clean. And that's all they said.
They didn't say,
they look clean.
He said they are very clean.
They are very clean.
They're very clean. George's friends, they're very clean.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's an inside joke among them, because you remember in the Hard Day's Night, the Paul's father is there in the train.
Yeah.
Who is him? Oh, I don't know. He's very clean.
But then they say to Ringo Starr, someone sent flowers. Let's see. They're from the Hare Krishnas. He says, Ringo. Do you like them? And Ringo says, not really. And that's it for.
That's how she
in the movie?
So you see, I mean, an editor can kill, a lot of stuff. I mean, but depends on the slant, There was 156 hours, I think.
And they did 60 hours.
And recording is 6.
100. They did 6 hours.
Cut it down to 6. Yeah.
They cut it down to 6.
From 160. Yeah. And the only reference to devotees is that they're very clean and they're George's friend, and Ringo Starr doesn't really like them.
Yeah. And then you see
Sorry.
Yeah. No, that the other movie that came out that's produced by also Olivia Harrison is the one with Scorsese. That's the way you pronounce the famous director. And also it's got that slant, you see how, it's to her taste or to her.
Are you talking about My Sweet Lord?
No, well, it's a Scorsese.
That one's a documentary.
It's a documentary. But, So.
Yeah,
but,
people will be tested.
Yeah. But Kula Shekhar met Paul McCartney many times, and they were in friendly terms. And George Harrison gave him a set of tabla
He told
to
me.
Kula. Yeah.
He told me. I met Kula Shekhar for the first time on Facebook 10 years ago. And he was kind of bitter. He was expressing how, he said, those three Grasta couple, Sham Sundar, Guru Das, there's so much about, but, I'm Prabhupada's first disciple in Europe. We always hear about Guru Das and Yamuna and Mukunda, but I'm the first disciple in Europe. I'm Prabhupada's first disciple. So I could see, as Bhakti Tirtha Swami would say, it was a call for love. We
rescued him from the streets. At least a couple of times, 3 times.
Wow.
One time was in LA, living in his car.
Wow.
So how necessary is for us to have some welfare, a place to take care of all their devotees.
Prabhupada would want that, like anything.
Yeah. He had diabetes, type 2, but kind of severe. So he had neuropathy and he had a lot of problems. But, we brought him up. I brought him up to Eugene the first time to be a manager or, to work with us at the store.
We had a preaching center.
We had a preaching center
that my son had
cafe,
started with us.
vegetarian cafe. And it was Vrindavan, actually, Vatrini son. We were doing everything through, at that time, we were advertising in newspapers, Indian, Hindustani Today,
Hinduism Today.
There were several papers, so we were making. Bhatrini was so Bhatrini was selling all her things, and then later on we did our things. But Vrindavan came up with the idea: why don't you open it? I'll be in Eugene. You should open a store near the university and a preaching center.
It was really nice.
So it came out really quite a center. And so that's how.
So we had Kula there for a while, but
and he actually was instrumental in bringing Bhakti Baba Puri Maharaj to our store.
In Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha.
Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha. Drishtadumna, when he took sannyas again, Naranya Maharaj, so many devotees came from all the, we didn't have any distinctions. So people.
That wasn't called Inquire Within Gopa Vrindapal.
No,
he opened that later after.
He made it up after what my son was doing. Ours was called Planet Goloka. And he followed it.
We had a fantastic artist from Honolulu painting. So you go out 2-3 steps onto a porch, and it had 2 doors, and so the entire wall and the 2 doors were the painting of the spiritual world and Srimad Bhagavatam. And then as you open, you open one of the paintings was the door, so you open the door into what would have been Planet Goloka.
Nice.
And we had so many local people that helped us, make arches like India.
We won second best vegetarian restaurant.
Well, was Dharmaraj there at the time doing Govindas?
Oh no, he wasn't doing Govindas yet.
Okay.
No, Govindas was in San Luis Obispo or somewhere like that. They weren't there
First
yet.
they were in Laguna, then they moved.
Then
he came while we were there. They had a successful place, and then they split up. Pushpadanta and Agni, they split up, and Pushpadanta went on to do car sales. Yeah, car sales.
No, but he didn't have the Govindas until towards the end of our store. And then the Govinda Maharaj's group opened a preaching center down the street from us.
One devotee from there.
No, but they did. It
was actually a god brother.
Yeah, it was Hari.
Hari Vilas?
No,
Hari Vilas.
Atmaram's father. Anyway, it was really a happening place for such a little town. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and who was it that went? Was it Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha that went to the trade center? Oh, go ahead. What'd you say?
Well, I was going to say I was on my way. I was organizing the Rainbow Gathering from here. And I talked to Bhaganath Swami at the San Francisco Temple. I got Vaisheshia. I got the Seattle Temple to donate a bunch of rice. I was getting supplies from what's her name now? I haven't seen her forever. Cheryl is her secular name. Gee, I haven't seen her for such a long time. She's in Nevada, Reno, I think. She's got some land there, and she has some kind of a storage bin where all of the rainbow gathering equipment is stored. I can't remember. I haven't seen her for ages.
Well, we went with Hanuman to a rainbow gathering there in Spokane.
Yeah.
And he was telling me how many of the devotees came from the rainbow family.
Yeah.
And as we were talking, they had all these groups. It was pretty amazing. I never seen prasadam distributed so quickly, so well organized. But guess who brought the prasadam in with horses, draft horses and a cart? It was Balabhadra Prabhu. He brought massive amounts of prasadam.
Wow.
And with the draft horses, and it was really.
Where was this?
Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
State, yeah.
What year was that?
Anyway, I did all this organizing from here, and at the very end, when I was about to come, I realized I had lost my passport. And
no!
Some dentist office said, "Oh, we found your passport. It was stuck in the seat."
In the seat.
Yes. But
what happened? You didn't go?
No.
Oh.
Can't go to America without a passport.
Of course.
Well, that was, but then, what year is this you're talking about?
That wasn't so long.
Not too long ago.
2015, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because before we used to go into Canada, no problem. And Canadians would come with their driver license. That was it.
Not anymore.
Not like
but then
that.
after 9/11,
stuck up your nose and something stuck in your arm.
Yeah, well, before that was a terrorist. Remember, 9/11, and so things got tense, between the two places. And
tomorrow night. Sorry,
we should let you go to sleep. You gotta go to sleep before midnight.
I do. I just wanted to let you two folks know that myself, Mahaburi Prabhu, Nimai Chaitanya Prabhu, who's an Ayurvedic practitioner.
Yeah, we know him. Yeah, we know
I got
him.
your message. Yeah, we know him.
Narasimha Prabhu. I've asked all of them to come together because Pradyumna Prabhu, a devotee in Montreal, he was expressing to me, Gora, there's a lot of young devotees out there.
Yeah, we met him online the other day. We met him at your class.
They're very bewildered by the whole COVID issue and, how would Prabhupada see COVID? How would Prabhupada respond to it? So I'm organizing a conference tomorrow night at 9:00.
Yeah.
Welcome to come if you want. I've asked.
I saw your what you sent me today.
I met Nishringa.
I'll come.
I met Nishringa in 1978 in Lakshman Jula. I had just come back from Badranath and I had my 3 daughters with me. And he met, like, I was walking to town, and
he was an impersonalist.
He had been an impersonalist sannyasi.
Wow.
And then he had met Prabhupada.
I heard it.
Yeah. And then he was with this German guy whose name I forget, who had a little temple in Lakshman Jula. And so I had been thrown out of the temple and I was touring, going to the 4 Dhams, Badranath, Kedarnath, like that. And
That's unbelievable. With 3 little girls, you're traveling to all these holy places.
Right. And I had a sannyasi chit. The temple committees gave me free bus passes and free dharmshalas staying, and they considered me like a sannyasini, even though I had 3 children.
But they had heard from,
and they'd heard how I'd given the money, my life's inheritance, and helped build the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. Yeah. So they wanted to honor that. And so anyway, I was just staying out of Vrindavan for a month because the place I was staying at was having a festival for their guru. And so I didn't have anywhere to stay because I had to wait a week to take the bus to Kedarnath. And so Nishringa took me to meet his teacher, guru, the German man, and he had a deity of Dattatreya, the incarnation.
Very unusual deity. Is it of Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu, all 3 in Dattatreya?
Yes, and he has 3 dogs.
I saw that when I was in
Yeah.
Murti. I saw photos. And I
Yeah,
thought, I'm not familiar with Dattatreya.
and he also, this guy whose name I forget, from Germany, he also had some mystic power. So he had an altar with Krishna and Srila Prabhupada's books, and he had an altar for Shiva and who I don't know whose books. And he would touch people on the head and give them a vision of Shiva or Krishna, whichever one they preferred. And he was trying to get me to let him touch my head so I could see Krishna. And I said, no, thank you. I'd rather see him through my spiritual master's instructions in the holy name. And so he gave me a room underneath the Goshala. I was 75 feet above the Ganges, on the bank of the Ganges, and the room was down one level, and it was a cave made into a room, and he gave it to me for free because he couldn't have a woman and 3 children staying at his little tiny temple.
Right.
And so the next morning I fell off the balcony there, and and I had to leave India, and I was in the hospital for 2 months, and my children went back to my in-laws, and I had to leave. I had to leave India in a wheelchair, and but that's how I met him. And he told me before I had the accident that he was my son. Oh no, he told me that later. After I had the accident, I saw him again. After they got me to the ambulance to go to the hospital in Delhi, he and his German teacher went all the way to Vrindavan. And they went to the Krishna Balaram temple, and they went into a kirtan. And Nrsimha thought, this is it. I'm never leaving. And he became a devotee. And then when he saw me,
you brought Nrsimha with you, or
no? He and the German guy went to the Krishna Balaram temple, and when he went in, he realized, he'd already met Prabhupada. He went, "This is it. I'm never leaving." And so, while I was in the hospital, they came to visit me, and Nrsimha told me that he has now become my son, and he's a devotee, and so he was going to build me a house in Vrindavan.
Who said that?
Nrsimha. He said he's going to build me. I'm his mother, he told me. And he's going. So I was teasing him when he came on last time. I said, when are you building me my house? And he goes, oh, I have COVID.
I understand. You go way back. Yeah.
Yes. And he's an amazing person. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I can tell. No, I see he's a powerful creature. You could see.
Yeah, he is.
And
he's very clear.
Really good-hearted. Really good-hearted.
Yeah.
Last time we were together, we were actually in Parikrama with Bhakti Swarup Siddhar Maharaj. Asking,
sure. I just got a message finally from Jivan Mukta.
Oh, yeah,
how is
he
he
doing? I was going to ask you today.
He's just saying, who wrote? Oh, okay. There's one lady. I made her a devotee. Well, I don't want to say I made her a devotee, but I helped her.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Bhakti and Tracy, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I'm a friend of Gaura Das Prabhu. I am seeing he is unavailable on Messenger, on Facebook. I'm concerned if he is okay. I'm assuming that he got kicked off Facebook. I know he is in contact with you often. If you could pass along to him my text phone number and my email, let me know. If you spare a moment to reach out, or if you can confirm he's okay. I want to tell you something. You find out who your friends are when you get kicked off Facebook. I've had 4 or 5 devotees reach out, Gaura, are you okay? And that really touches my heart, because it shows there's some genuine, sincere folks. I'm not going to say that everyone else isn't genuine, but when you see that someone's thinking of you, because you could be dead, you could have left your body.
Yeah.
So it's touching. I'm trying to take this as Krishna's mercy. I'm trying to see the silver line.
Does that mean I can't get in touch with you on Messenger anymore?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do we have your phone number?
Nrihari Prabhu has.
Yeah.
I'm not. Well, I have you on WhatsApp. You're also cut off on WhatsApp today.
No, I'm on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That has a phone. Yeah.
I can't call America unless it's through WhatsApp because my phone number is only limited to Canada.
Right.
Oh, okay. So online. Me too. I'm the only way I can call out here is from here,
our house.
From our house, because I had no reception with my cell phone.
Right.
So we have a landline, and then I have my phone. She went on to internet, so she can dial out.
But then if he does that, he loses all the information on his phone.
So I travel quite often to places, contacts in Los Angeles where
he can't go on to internet.
My phone won't recognize. If I change it to that, then it won't recognize, anyhow. Okay. But that's why I use WhatsApp.
So, we're tomorrow evening when we have this discussion, it's really for the sake of a lot of the confused younger devotees because they see their gurus promoting these injections and yes.
Isn't it dangerous to tell them what Srila Prabhupada would say or do or think?
Dangerous? What do you mean?
How do we know what Srila Prabhupada would say or do or think? He has been the most surprising, unpredictable personality next to God.
He's got both time and circumstance, but we could tell. I mean, if it was for Gargamuni and Brahmananda, I know Prabhupada hated hospitals, hated vaccines, hated injections, no needles, no more needles, he would say. No more needles.
The article, yeah.
Yeah. And then remember in Africa, with Pushta Krishna, the episode, and he sends them to somehow or other get me the passport. I don't want the injection.
But they had to get the injection.
So they had to. But they'll sacrifice, we'll sacrifice our lives for our spiritual master. That's correct.
And as Krishna was going through, the immigration officer asked, what's your age? And then Hari Krishna started going, blood, started acting like really crazy. Because, you can't write down 1896, right?
Is this chanting? He can't stop. Is this chanting? He's going nuts. Okay, bye.
And he said, what's your age? Oh, I forgot. He just really gets crazy. Okay, well, when you remember, you write it in,
So, I mean, why you did that? What we deduce from that, I mean, obviously Prabhupada didn't think too much of this and didn't think well of them.
I interviewed Shruti Kirti, Nanda Kumar, and Hari Sari, and they all said Prabhupada was against vaccinations. He didn't take them. He took, Ayurvedic medicine, Yogendra Ras. They said they never observed Prabhupada. Now, there's one occasion that Pragosh Prabhu, the UK GBC, who's the editor for Dandavats.com. One devotee I know inquired from him. Pragosh
It's
Prabhu,
not the same Pragosh. Is that the same Pragosh?
Disciple of Tatsarup Maharaj.
Oh,
different. Okay. Yeah. No, it's not our friend.
And so he's running Dandavats.com. And one devotee writes to him, because I was having a discussion with her. Why is it that you're always just like putting the mainstream media view, the pro-jab view, and he said, oh well, I only publish the view of the majority. And I thought, boy, view the majority. Well, I guess you should stop writing about Gaudiya Vaishnavism because that's a minority compared to the rest of it.
Hello.
And then he said, oh, by the way, Prabhupada took the Hong Kong flu vaccine. But if you do the research on that, this was in 1968. The Hong Kong flu vaccine had been tested for at least 7 years. It's nothing like this biotech with nanoparticles in it and aluminum hydroxide and formaldehyde and pig kidney cells and aborted.
And even if it didn't
human
have that,
embryos.
let's say they had to have all that mRNA, and it has to be from starting from a human embryo. But even let's say that it had good ingredients, let's say excipient ingredients, but the vaccines were always judged by the results. So vaccine meant that once you have it, you're immune to it. Now it's like, no, well, first, you won't get it, unless you take, the vaccine you're going to get. Then people got the vaccine, got it. And, oh, well, you need a booster. They don't last but 6 months.
It's called moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
You need this for the first shot, then you need the second shot. Oh, now it's Delta variant. Now it's Omicron. Oh, now it's another con.
Another con. Yeah.
There's no limit. I mean, yeah. So the demoniac agenda is out there, and it's very painful to have seen so many wonderful Vaishnavas, leaders. Guru Garanga Prabhu, I was told, went around and he did all the interviews saying, we're Hridayananda Maharaj, Veer Krishna Maharaj, Vaisheshika Prabhu, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, all wrote a little article that ended with, and therefore taking the vaccination is the best decision for me. And that's why Badarayan Prabhu made a video which is entitled, and that's why taking the vaccination is not the best decision for me. So he'll be on the.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to hear that.
He'll be on the panel tomorrow night.
He didn't send it.
So yeah, I'll be there tomorrow.
Prashanti's leaving.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, His Grace Praladananda, the ex-minister, very intelligent man, and somebody's got a head, on his shoulders. So, but I don't understand. I mean, with Radhanath, I don't understand it. I mean, because I seen all his, he's like so. In a way, I mean, he did an amazing homage to Sri Amaraya Maharaj. It's on YouTube. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
Oh, okay. He it tells of he's going together to 2-hour ride with Maharaj in the car, and you know how he is, very dramatic.
Bhavanandan Maharaj explained in an unrecorded Zoom, because one of his disciples asked him, Maharaj, how come ISKCON leaders are promoting? Because Maharaj himself said, this thing's it's a hoax. These masses don't know.
Radhanath? Or?
No, Prahladananda Maharaj.
Oh, Prahladananda, yes, yeah.
I was invited because devotees knew I was his supporter. And then someone asked, well, Maharaj, why are devotees, why are some of our gurus promoting this? And he said, because many ISKCON gurus have disciples that work for the pharmaceutical industry, and they financially support ISKCON. So if they were to speak against, now I'm adding my part, the conclusion of what he was saying.
Yeah.
If they were to speak against Big Pharma, their employers, then it's like, well, ISKCON's getting millions of dollars in donations to support the project. But then he added one other point that was like, whoa, it finally opened my eyes. There's a disciple, which I found out is a disciple of Radhanath Swami, or an aspiring disciple, Ajay Pirimal, net worth $5 billion, who has just received a $1 billion contract to make hijabs in India.
Right.
Supports Anna Amrit, Radhanath Swami's Food for Life program.
Yeah.
He sits on GBC committees, and he has stated that all ISKCON devotees should be vaccinated. And I'm thinking, bingo.
Yeah, that's one thing. If you read the homage to Prabhupada's appearance day by Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, most of it is amazing. But then at one point he goes, and we had to thank ISKCON for the humanitarian and the vaccine efforts that they have.
Yeah. See, this
so when
it's like
it's happening like what's happening with Christianity. It happened.
It's like Ramakrishna mission.
Yeah. I talked to one devotee.
Charitable work, opening up hospitals.
Yeah, so it's falling down from a platform.
Yeah, you get it. You get it.
Yeah.
Been around
and so it's what happened. Like my mom told me, said this is what's happening now. Right after Prabhupada left, she said before in the eyes of the devotees there was love. Now is fear. And then now we see that if you study the history of Christianity, when it became the state religion, and that's what pretty much is going on in India. it's been accepted as the religion, you know, with the banners of like where Prabhupada is a great national hero because he brought our culture to the way, you know, da, 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 da. But Prabhupada said Krishna is not Hindu, it's for everyone. That's why he used to really oppose these isms, yeah. But yeah, that's I think what's going on is that Islam has become a big merged with the political in the political arena.
But it goes deeper because of the New World Order, because of the World Economic Forum, because of the WHO, because of the United Nations, because on Mayapur property, there's a group called Vikas Sangha, and they're developing a park and a lake, and they show, you know, struggling Bengali women being supported by Vikas Sangha, but Vikas Sangha is supported by the World Health Organization and
There you go.
And they're because the danger of that, if you know, like I watched one movie, I think it was called Blue Gold, and it talked all about water. And I remember seeing a picture of George Bush's face on the front cover of Time magazine, where he was saying that water is now, you know, the biggest commodity, and he bought up like 500,000 acres in Uruguay over a huge aquifer because water is so valuable. And
we're destroying our aquifers, you know, like even before this COVID, I mean, I was just appalled, you know, Boucher said, no, you know, Malati was forced to, about how they sold the rights, you know, for fracking. And you know, that means the death of agriculture in that area, in a way. I mean, you contaminate your underground water. What are you going to do?
And then you have the haves and you have the nots, have-nots.
Yeah,
you have those
that's
who have
so huge.
Big homes and they go on nice vacations, and you've got others who are struggling and they have nothing to say about it.
I mean,
because the GBT.
we saw one time we went to Tamal's a room, you know, after we were in Vrindavan with Bhatri, it was 86 or something. And the luxury of that was amazing. And so I don't care. I really don't care. But what I right now I'm thinking, oh, I have got sisters there rotting somewhere that alone, you know, got brothers that sacrifice everything. And,
one devotee brought it up to my attention that Jayapataka Maharaj, you know, Krishna bless him, has 30 doctors and nurses, and there's other devotees with no help at all.
Yeah. I mean, I just read, you know, because Bashu Ghosh got me into this. I joined the group, you know, God Writer or something, you know, and it's Bashu Ghosh, run by Bashu Ghosh. So Bashu Ghosh sends me all the news about they call him Guru Dev, of course, you know, but he's a God brother. I mean, anyhow, he was telling me how he was flown to first had to stabilize them, and then it says a team of I don't know how many doctors,
30,
and and then they flew him to Chennai. I mean, all that is quite expensive. But, you know, if we think, well, you know, those are his disciples, we'd spare nothing if it was for Prabhupada as disciples, you know. So I can't say anything. I don't envy him.
I put myself in the hands of my disciples, and his disciples are all big pharma people. So he got the jab and 2 quarts of blood clots taken out of him. It's so bewildering to the devotee.
Right.
Nanda Maharaj arrives in Alachua, and our dear God sister, Mother Mukhya, says, unless you take, you know, 2 lethal injections, you can't stay here. Of course, she didn't say lethal injections. She said 2 vaccinations. I'm thinking, wow, that is Vaishnava Aparad. You can't tell sannyasi unless you inject some horrible drugs in your body. You're not welcome.
See, you know, this is I think the result of us insulting pure Vaishnavas. When Prabhupada told us to go, I mean, it's serious. It's one of the instructions of Guru. Why can't we follow it? Go to see Sridhar Maharaj to get advice. He called on to Narayan Maharaj to do everything. Bhatrini was there. Narayan Maharaj did everything for Prabhupada, everything that Prabhupada asked him. So he did send them to help us go further in learning about bhakti. You know, that was the next phase. And so he left somebody for us to, but, you know, all the politics began there was some enviousness, and that's what that causes the problems.
So Pradyumna Prabhu, who is kind of like has been my inspiration to finally do this, because I wanted to address this because of so much confusion. He was saying his concern is he doesn't want to see the younger devotees become discouraged from serving in ISKCON because of so much confusion.
You know what? I mean, they might have to make a decision where they're going to have to leave ISKCON. I'm sorry to tell him, there's a choice. It's like Bhishma had a choice. But at the same time, Narayana Maharaj explains in the Bhagavad Gita, he writes a Gita with by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yeah. And he says that
with some purport.
Commentary is the purpose of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he does his comments on it. Anyhow, he explains why Dronacharya Bhishma went on the other side. It was to encourage for these people to get killed. If Duryodhana would have Bhishma on the other side, he would think twice. No, I'm not going to go against the Pandavas. Grandfather Bhishma, the immortal, is on their side. So it's amazing how intricate and transcendent amazing it is. So he says, these are pure devotees. How can you blame Bhishma for anything? He's a pure devotee. It's like Jiva Goswami explains, how come a pure devotee will have to take delight in fighting and hurting Krishna with arrows? And so he says some ashuric emotion came over Bhishma in order to him to get the courage to do this. So it's very deep and like that. But we need always.
Anyway, I'll be challenged tomorrow night because my idea so far is each of the 5 speakers, I'll suggest to them 5 minutes each. Then we'll open it up for discussion. But then how am I going to contain each person who raises their hand to make to be concise, to get it, get your point out?
You said 5 minutes.
20 people that want to talk.
You have to give them a time limit, like when.
Aren't you happy they didn't ask me? Trini is all again on my case.
I think the 2 of you could add a lot to the conversation, but it would have to be like.
It has to be 5 minutes.
Soundbite.
Right. I don't have anything to say.
But no, I like to listen. I like to.
Trini, you just made it right now. You were mentioning about the Ramakrishna mission. We're not meant to go in that direction.
I know, but at the same time, I wouldn't dare tell people what Srila Prabhupada would do or think.
Or guide them to.
In other words, I'm not trying to be facetious right now. Maybe a little bit, but so then it should just be a free for all. Whatever you think. If you want to bring in people with lethal injections, who knows, right?
No, I'm kind of between you 2 guys in a way, because I read everything, and it takes me a while, but I chew on it, to digest, and
I mean, don't like Eric Clapton wrote a song with Van Morrison.
Oh,
take a stand.
Yes.
I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to follow my spiritual master's instructions, and I am not going to get involved in politics.
Well, the instructions, but weren't the instructions, if they stop you from being Krishna conscious, you leave them?
I already left ISKCON.
Yeah.
I already followed his instructions. If they're
you have ISKCON in your heart, you can never leave ISKCON.
No.
No, I'm leaving ISKCON Inc.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's
like we have America Inc.
He said if they tell you to do something which is detrimental to you, he didn't say it in those words. He didn't say much, but what I get from it, which is my own interpretation, and it's pretty clear in my letters.
Yeah.
That if they tell me to do something which prevents me from chanting and following the principles, then I don't follow them.
You can give them up.
Like so.
It's that Rupa Goswami explains, you can give up as spiritual masters. If
you can give up bad association.
I can't
change them. I have not any power to change them. I can't even change my schedule.
For me, as far as for me, is that they invaded ISKCON and they pretty much turn it into something very different.
But
And so
ISKCON's still there.
we left. But
It's the
But
Maya.
ISKCON, the
Maya
movement of Lord
ISKCON.
Chaitanya, the movement is from
Well, that's
Krishna.
the point. Pradyumna is reading Ayendra Prabhu's book, and he's just constantly being reminded, get out on Harinam. And he's trying to find old devotees to go on Harinam with him. And he's wondering, like, where are all the devotees to go on Harinam with? And it doesn't matter if you're with this Sangha or that Sangha. This
Right.
is the Dharma. This is what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, we saw Harinam started.
When I joined, that was it.
Harinam started on when Prabhupada told him to, was it Lord Chaitanya's appearance day? He said, stay in the temple and chant all day. And they went outside and they were chanting in front of Prabhupada's window.
Prabhupada
called them in
oh, we're in trouble now. Look what you
goes,
made me do.
Oh, you've understood. That's what we're meant to do.
Where was
Inside
that?
and outside.
Where was that? Where was that?
San
Gurudas,
Francisco.
San Francisco, Frederick Street.
He told
He
that
was
story
telling
today.
us today. He was reminding us
That was
story.
the first Harinam?
Yes.
Yeah, in the West Coast, I don't know.
Well, they
I mean,
had
the first
under-
Harinam was Prabhupada in Tompkins Square.
Right.
I mean, already had devotees. That's a wonderful lecture. You've probably seen it. It's, I think it's in 2nd Avenue, but on 62nd Avenue, the second temple. And Prabhupada said how I started. Everything is about chanting this Harinam.
Right.
And, you know, it talks about Brahmananda and Chutananda being the first
And
two
the photos
dancers.
of Hayagriva going out with a big bass drum.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a matchless gifts. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay,
Okay, Gora, you
I
gotta
just
go to
said
sleep before.
Ari Codicy is the 28th.
Huh?
I just looked at the calendar because it's like, I don't want to miss Ekadasi. Ours is the 28th. It's a Dwadasi. And
That's right.
Dwadasi not suitable for following it.
Dwadasi, yes.
But I don't know what it is on your calendar. That's the thing. When I was in Vrindavan, I found out that just like astrology, just like astrology, there are 5 different mathematical ways to do a chart, and they're all bona fide. They all come up with different charts.
Wow.
There are 4 ways to calculate when Ekadasi is in Vrindavan with our group. Like
But I
we live in
remember
Gopinath Bhavan. So there is an astrologer, astronomer, disciple of Srila Gurudev's, who Gurudev said, you at Gopinath Bhavan, Srila Narayan Maharaj said, you at Gopinath Bhavan, you follow his dates. Then there's the Pure Bhakti, Gurudev's group, that has Ekadasi's has a calendar calculated. And it's different from the one at Gopinath Bhavan. They're both in Vrindavan.
But we were in Krishna Balaram
And
in the year
then-
76. We followed what the Pandits they would come and tell us.
And then there's Vrindavan. They always celebrate it on a different day than everybody else. They have Vrindavan.
So what's your
Brijvasis.
point? What's your point?
Yeah, what's your point?
That these things are like confusing to me, and I don't know what to think. It's not black and white.
I see.
So that's one reason I don't want to get involved with this, trying to save ISKCON and save everyone from the jab, because I can't figure it out myself. So I can't save myself.
You expressed your opinion. You didn't think, after a while, you thought about it and you thought, hey, there is some.
Well,
something
I
funny about this.
grew up, my grandfather said, don't take any medicine, don't take vaccinations. So I tend that way anyway.
Right. I'm the same way. When my second son was born, Mahaprabhu, my former wife, Isabel, came to me and she said, they're putting pressure to have our son vaccinated. What do you think? And then immediately I felt like the weight of being a responsible parent. And I thought, well, I should do some research. I'm very skeptical of this. So I ordered a book by Dr. What's his name? Starts with an M. Dr. Mendelsohn, Harvard University pediatrician for 30 years. The title of the book was How to Have a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. And as I read the book, he was saying the only people that profit from vaccinations are the companies that make them. They don't guarantee any immunity. There's natural immunity. He was just like kind of blowing the whole scam off vaccinations.
Oh,
And I got the mumps, I got the measles one, I got them all. And I remember even getting one of them, and I went unconscious, and a fire truck rushed me to the hospital. But yeah, this society has been convinced that polio and everything, but no, there's other points of view that no, when cleanliness was brought up to a higher standard, that's when the polio disappeared. It wasn't because of
Did you see Did you see the film? There's two, very well produced, about this. The vax of, I can't remember what it is, the name of it, but it has the story of all the new medicine that Rockefeller actually was the one.
Rockefeller medicine, the Pixler report.
He's the one that financed all these colleges, and so
even Rockefeller was so mad, he even went to China to try to convince the traditional Chinese medical doctors of thousands of years to give up their practice, and he built a hospital there, but he wasn't very successful.
Oh, good.
Thank God.
But actually, can I say something? The reason I was talking about how they're different dates is just because I wanted to not miss it. And while you guys were talking, I looked it up. It really has nothing to do with the vaccination, because you asked, well, no, because I'm looking and I see a date here. And for all I know, I'm going to be on the wrong date because there are 4 possibilities. But anyway.
Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to look it up for myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it's almost going on 11 o'clock here. I'm really like,
okay. Well, if you sleep before midnight, you'll get good sleep.
Oh, thank you for the reminder.
Okay.
Yeah, sleep in a hurry. Sleep in a hurry.
Sleep fast.
Sleep fast.
All right, I'll get knocked out. Prabhu Trini in your Hari Prabhu's